My brother stalked my girlfriend, but my family defended him. We were threatened, so we left, started over, and cut off all contact. As soon as my girlfriend Sophia, 25, walked in, Ethan began acting aggressively, making her incredibly uncomfortable with absolutely out-of-character conduct. He virtually pushed our mother aside just to be the first to hug Sophia, and he held her so tightly that she had to physically pull away. Throughout dinner, he kept finding excuses to touch her hand or shoulder, making odd inside jokes despite the fact that they'd only recently met, and actually pushing past me many times to sit next to her, until he crossed the line by trying to feed her with his fork while staring attentively. Sophia was obviously uneasy, but she stayed courteous because it was our first family gathering and she wanted to make a good impression. Ethan spent the entire evening reciting embarrassing anecdotes about my youth, twisting them to make me look like a miserable fool. He even told a completely false story about how he had to save my high school girlfriend from my claimed emotional abuse, which never occurred. Sophia knew these stories weren't genuine since I'd already told her about my adolescence, but my parents just nodded along as if Ethan was spouting biblical truth. After dinner, things worsened. Sophia offered to help clean up, hoping to be helpful. I was helping my father move some boxes in the garage when I remembered I hadn't seen Sophia in a while. I found her in the kitchen, with Ethan actually blocking her departure. He had trapped her at the sink and told her she deserved someone more exciting than his boring, unstable older brother. He was standing far too close, one hand on the counter next to her hip. Sophia ordered him to back off twice before I came inside. When she spotted me, she was relieved and came to stand next to me. Ethan just laughed dismissively, as if everything was one big joke, but Sophia was visibly shivering. My fiancée Sophia and I had been dating for 8 months, and everything was going great until Ethan started to wreck our lives with his compulsive behavior. I suppose I should explain our family dynamic so that this makes sense. Ethan and I were raised in a tiny Minnesota town by upper-middle-class parents. Our parents both work in real estate and make good money, but they've always prioritized appearances over genuine family relationships. Ethan was born when I was 3 years old, and he has always been the focal point of our parents' lives. He could do no wrong, but everything was always my fault. Growing up, Ethan exhibited some pretty alarming conduct, which my parents completely disregarded. When he was 6, he purposefully smashed my game console because I refused to let him play whenever he wanted. Instead of penalizing him, my parents got him his own and told me I needed to learn to share more effectively. At 12, he murdered my pet hamster by giving it chocolate, knowing it was deadly, but my parents stated it was a mistake and that I shouldn't have a pet if I couldn't properly care for it. In high school, he created allegations that I cheated on my then girlfriend, resulting in our split. My parents claimed he was merely protecting her. That tendency persisted into maturity. Ethan still lives at home with our parents, works at my father's real estate firm, and generally does whatever he wants. He has ruined every relationship I have tried to form. With my previous girlfriend, he convinced her family that I had a gambling problem, which was absolutely false. Before that, he told another woman that I had cheated on all of my ex-partners, which was also false. My parents would either justify his acts or accuse me of being overly dramatic. When I met Sophia, I resolved to do things differently. I kept our relationship absolutely quiet from my family for the first 3 months to protect her from Ethan's regular techniques. Sophia is truly the best thing that has happened to me. She is an intelligent and caring pediatric nurse at our local hospital. We met in the hospital cafe while I was visiting a coworker who had recently undergone surgery. She was on her lunch break, and we started talking about how bad the hospital coffee was. After a few more coffee discussions, we began dating, and everything seemed great. Sophia knows everything about my family history because I wanted her to be prepared. In fact, she was the one who pushed me to try to introduce her, claiming that things might be different now that we were all adults. One of my favorite things about her is that she constantly looks for the best in people. I eventually agreed to introduce Sophia to my family at a dinner party last month, and then everything started to fall apart. The main difficulty began several days after the dinner. Sophia began to receive weird phone calls and messages from numbers she did not know. At first, she responded with heavy breathing or immediate hang-ups. Then they started leaving more weird voicemails, labeling her stuck up and cold for turning down a better option. Some of the messages included exact data about her work schedule and what she wore that day, proving someone was watching her. Sophia didn't realize it at first, but a couple voices reminded me of Ethan's high school classmates. This gang of boys still goes out with him and basically follows his orders because his parents give him money to spend. When Sophia blocked those numbers, they simply began phoning from new ones. Then Ethan's pals began showing up at the hospital, appearing to be visitors but actually lingering around the pediatric wing, where Sophia works. They would look at her for hours, making loud comments that she could hear. Last week, one of them followed her to her car after she worked the night shift. She was so horrified that she contacted me crying from inside her car, afraid to drive home in case they were monitoring her. I had to come pick her up and drive her car back, while my friend followed us in his car to ensure we weren't being pursued. Sophia has begun experiencing panic attacks before her shifts, and her coworkers have realized something is plainly wrong. Yesterday, I finally got enough evidence to approach Ethan. I had voicemail recordings, messaging screenshots, and hospital security camera footage that showed his friend stalking Sophia. I visited our parents' house, where Ethan still resides, and showed him everything. He just sat there, smugly smiling, as I spoke. Then he looked me directly in the eyes and stated he had no idea what I was talking about. But maybe if Sophia wasn't such a spoiled brat, no one would feel the need to teach her a lesson. Something inside of me snapped when he said that, and I hit him in the face. Ethan immediately began screaming as if I had tried to kill him, despite the fact that it was only a little nosebleed. Our parents rushed in, and of course, they lost it. At me, not him. They didn't even look at the evidence I tried to provide to them. My mother became enraged over her poor baby boy being attacked, while my father yelled that I had always been jealous of Ethan and needed professional help for my anger issues. When I tried to explain the harassment, Mom said Sophia was probably flirting with Ethan at dinner and is now playing the victim because she was caught. Dad urged me to leave his house and not return until I had apologized to Ethan and gotten my head straight. I am writing from Sophia's flat, where I have been staying since last night. She finally fell asleep in the other room after crying for hours, frightened of going to work tomorrow. Sophia's supervisor has been understanding thus far, but she is concerned that if the problem escalates, she may lose her job. She enjoys working with children in pediatrics and should not be forced to give it up because of my insane brother. I really don't know what to do anymore. Every time I think Ethan cannot go any lower, he proves me wrong. Our parents are absolutely encouraging his actions and have been gaslighting both me and Sophia about what is happening. The police will not take action unless there is more direct evidence linking Ethan to the harassment. Sophia is terrified, her job is in jeopardy, and my family treats us as if we are the problem. Has anyone ever dealt with something like this? How do I keep Sophia safe while dealing with such a toxic family? Should I do more to capture everything that happens? Any advice would be highly appreciated. I'm at my wit's end. Update 1. First and foremost, I'd like to thank everyone who responded to my first post. Reading all of your answers helped me realize how serious the problem is. Sophia and I attempted to follow a lot of the advice many of you gave about documenting everything and taking legal action. Unfortunately, things have become worse over the last 2 weeks, and I need to rant about it. We followed the instructions and went to the police. Sophia and I spent hours gathering proof, including screenshots of all the threatening messages, voicemail recordings, and hospital security footage that showed Ethan's buddies lurking. We also received written testimonies from 3 of Sophia's coworkers who witnessed the stalking conduct. The officer we initially spoke with was concerned, particularly regarding workplace harassment, but things quickly became difficult. It comes out that Ryan, Ethan's best buddy and one of the main perpetrators of the abuse, is the son of a local police sergeant. When we stated Ryan's name, the officer's tone completely altered. He began by stating that without concrete proof that Ethan was coordinating everything, there was little they could do. He further indicated that Sophia was misinterpreting friendly attention from people who were just hanging around the hospital for legitimate reasons. He even had the arrogance to wonder if Sophia had somehow piqued their interest. We wanted to speak with another officer, preferably a female, but they refused. Finally, they stated they'd send a warning to everybody we could identify from the tape, but that was all they could do in the absence of specific evidence of actual threats. It felt like an absolute waste of time. My parents' reaction was far worse than I anticipated. The day after we went to the police, Ethan arrived at their house with a black eye, claiming I had struck him again. I hadn't seen him since the night I hit him 2 weeks before, but my parents quickly believed him. My mother called, sobbing about how I'd lost control, and was trying to destroy Ethan's life. She said going to the police demonstrated I was purposefully attempting to damage his future over a stupid misunderstanding. Then my father called. He was infuriated. He threatened to cut me off financially, which would have been problematic if I still relied on them. Fortunately, I have a steady career in software development and my own apartment. He also threatened to fire me from the family real estate company, conveniently forgetting that I never worked there. That is Ethan's job. It truly demonstrates that they don't regard me as my own person, but rather as an accessory to Ethan's life. The true calamity occurred this past weekend. My mother repeatedly called and texted, saying they wanted to fix things, as a family. She assured that Ethan was sorry for everything and wanted to apologize to both me and Sophia. She stated that they had discussed limits with him, and he was aware that his behavior was wrong. After discussing it with Sophia, we decided to give them the opportunity to make things right. That was an enormous error. We went to my parents' house expecting a family dinner to reconcile things. I sensed there was something odd from the moment we went in. The house was full with my parents, Ethan, our aunt and uncle, who usually support Ethan, and, worst of all, Ryan and two of the guys who had been pursuing Sophia at work. My mom referred to it as a family intervention. For 2 hours, they all took turns criticizing Sophia's character, while Ethan sat there looking smug. My mother delivered a lengthy lecture about Sophia's obvious jealousy of Ethan's attractiveness and success. What success? And how she had been flirting with him during dinner. She claimed Sophia made up the harassment because she felt sorry about leading Ethan on, and was now attempting to cover her tracks. Sophia, according to my aunt, was probably used to having attention from males at work and mistook nice conduct for stalking out of guilt. Ethan played his job brilliantly, appearing sad and perplexed as to why Sophia would fabricate such nasty lies about him. He kept stating how happy he was to finally have a sister-in-law and how saddened he was that she was attempting to turn everyone against him. Ryan and his friends backed him up, claiming they had simply come to the hospital to see Ryan's ailing grandmother, who supposedly transfers between floors and apartments every day. The toughest thing was when they began questioning Sophia's mental stability. They mentioned that she sometimes works night shifts, which suggested that a lack of sleep was contributing to her paranoia. They discussed how stressful working with sick children must be, as if she was putting her professional stress into harmless interactions with Ethan and his pals. My mother even had the audacity to suggest a therapist who may help Sophia work through her tendency to create drama. Sophia originally attempted to defend herself by politely discussing the harassment and even giving them the messages and voicemails again. But they kept talking over her, dismissing her facts as misunderstandings or hinting that she had caused everything. When Ryan began outlining in detail what Sophia had worn on specific days at work, demonstrating he had been monitoring her, my parents assumed Sophia was attempting to attract attention. Things grew terrible when they invited Ryan and his pals to join us for dessert, claiming they wanted to demonstrate what good young men they truly were. Sophia was having problems breathing and had to leave the room. When I attempted to follow her, my mother grabbed my elbow and told me it was time to choose between my real family and a clearly unstable girl who's just trying to cause problems. Sophia is who I choose. We left quickly, and I haven't spoken to my family since that night. Ethan's buddies have escalated their harassment, spreading reports at Sophia's workplace that she is mentally unstable and has a history of false claims. Her supervisor summoned her to a meeting yesterday to raise worries about drama at work. While he appeared empathetic, he warned her that the disruptions were beginning to damage her job performance and that she considered transferring to a different department or hospital. We've engaged an attorney to help us obtain a restraining order, but the procedure is sluggish. Sophia has been looking for jobs at other hospitals, and one of her old co-workers has offered to help her find work at a hospital some 300 miles away. I hate that we're being forced to take such harsh actions, but I can't face watching Sophia live in constant worry and tension. She now sobs before every shift and has lost weight because she is too anxious to eat properly. I really don't know what to do anymore. Every attempt to approach this sensibly has failed. My family is absolutely insane, the cops are ineffective, and it appears that Ethan is winning. How can you fight back when people want to believe the worst about you, and the best about your abuser? Update 2. I wish I had better news, but everything fell apart following what happened at my cousin Chloe's wedding last weekend. I've been trying to comprehend everything for the last few days before posting this update. What was supposed to be a happy family celebration turned into a nightmare that left Ethan in handcuffs and our family irrevocably shattered. To begin, Chloe has always been the only member of the family, aside from my grandfather, who recognized Ethan's deception. When we were youngsters, Mom caught Ethan abusing her cat and informed everyone, but my parents convinced us she was lying for attention. She never forgot, and she has been completely supportive of me throughout Sophia's condition. She even drafted a thorough statement for our attorney explaining Ethan's troubling background. When Chloe sent her wedding invites, Sophia and I were hesitant to go. But Chloe called us directly and said she only invited Ethan because her parents insisted, and she had hired extra security just to keep an eye on him. She also sat us at a table with her husband's family, far from my parents and Ethan. We assumed that with all of the witnesses and security present, Ethan wouldn't do something stupid. We were mistaken. The ceremony went well, owing in large part to Ethan's duties as a groomsman. Noah, Chloe's husband, is our cousin on the other side of the family and was unaware of any of the drama. Everything appeared to be in order at first glance. Ethan sat at the family table with our parents, while we were across the room with Chloe's in-laws. Sophia began to relax and enjoy herself for the first time in weeks. Sophia used the restroom around 9 p.m. She had been gone for approximately 10 minutes when I saw Ethan wasn't at his table anymore. Something seemed strange, so I went to check on her. Sophia screamed as I was about to enter the restroom. I began running when Noah and his brother turned the bend in front of me. They discovered Ethan pushing Sophia against the hallway wall outside the lavatory, attempting to force himself on her while she struggled. He had one hand over her mouth and the other forcefully grabbing her arm, leaving bruises. Just as I arrived, Noah and his brother had dragged Ethan off of her. Sophia shook and cried. Her dress was torn at the shoulder, and there were already visible bruises on her arm. Ethan was clearly intoxicated and began ranting that Sophia had been teasing him all night, she had literally not gone near him, and that she had followed him into the hallway. She arrived first. Noah's brother, a police officer from another city, quickly called the local police, and Noah assisted Sophia into a private room where Chloe and her mother attempted to calm her down. This is where things went even worse, if that's possible. When the cops arrived, my parents attempted to stop them from detaining Ethan. My mother cried that it was all a misunderstanding, that Sophia had plainly misled Ethan, and that they shouldn't ruin his life for one minor drunken mistake. My father physically attempted to stop the officers from handcuffing Ethan, urging that they treat this as a family matter. Ethan went between crying about how Sophia seduced him and threatening everyone, claiming that none of us understood what he was capable of. He appeared absolutely unhinged. As they eventually got him into the police car, he started yelling that Sophia was a whore who had been asking for it since the day they met. Some guests captured the entire event on their phones. The aftermath was catastrophic. My parents got into a frenzy, phoning everyone in the family to provide their account of the events. They claimed Sophia took Ethan into a quiet spot, came onto him, and shouted assault when he rebuffed her. They claimed she planned the entire incident to exact revenge on Ethan for revealing her lies about the harassment. They even claimed that Noah and his brother hit Ethan before the cops arrived, which they did not, and that Sophia hurt herself. The one bright spot is that the wedding video shows Ethan following Sophia into the restroom hallway. With her bruises, many witnesses, and video proof of Ethan's breakdown during the arrest, our lawyer believes we have a solid case. Several relatives who attended the wedding have come forward to testify about Ethan's actions throughout the night, including inappropriate remarks he made about Sophia and how he pursued her during the reception. My parents have threatened to disown me unless Sophia drops the claims. They've been phoning and messaging nonstop, alternately apologizing for tearing the family apart and threatening to cut me out of the inheritance. They even showed up at my apartment yesterday, generating a disturbance that prompted my neighbors to contact the police. My mother screamed over how I was putting her sweet boy in jail, while my father swore to make sure I never worked in this state again. Sophia and I reached a decision. She accepted a job offer at a hospital 300 miles away, and I plan to work remotely for my firm. We're moving at the end of next month. Many people may believe we are fleeing, but we simply need to escape the toxicity and start over somewhere new. Chloe understands and has agreed to keep us up to date on any family developments. The most difficult part of all of this is knowing that my family will never accept Ethan needs help. Even after seeing him abuse someone at a wedding in front of witnesses, they continue to defend him and blame the victim. I've often wondered what might have happened if someone had intervened when we were kids, but we'll never know. Right now, I just need to concentrate on safeguarding Sophia and creating our new life together, away from Ethan and my parents' enabling behavior. Update 3. I hadn't planned to submit any more updates, but something happened yesterday that I feel compelled to tell. After 4 years of fortunate silence from my family, I received a frantic phone call from my mother, leaving me feeling both vindicated and heartbroken. First, a little update on Sophia and myself. We married 2 years ago in a short ceremony attended by Chloe's family and Sophia's relatives. We purchased a home in our new location, and Sophia is now the head pediatric nurse at her hospital. I am still working remotely for the same company, but I was promoted to senior developer last year. We're expecting our first kid, a baby girl, in 3 months. Life has been serene and cheerful, which makes what I am about to say much more frightening. Yesterday afternoon, I was in a conference when my phone started ringing incessantly with calls from my mother. I normally disregard strange numbers because my family has a tendency of purchasing new phones to reach us, but this time she left a message that sounded truly frantic. When I called back, she was sobbing so hard that I could not hear her. Ethan married a woman named Olivia last year. We were all unaware of it because we hadn't spoken to that side of the family since the wedding. Apparently, Ethan met Olivia in church, and their families swiftly planned their marriage. My mother kept going on about how wonderful everything was, how Ethan had finally found a good Christian woman who understood him, and how they were all so happy, until last week. Olivia's coworker called the police last Thursday after she failed to show up for work for 3 days. Officers discovered Olivia seriously injured during a wellness check. She had 2 broken ribs, a shattered wrist, and several bruises across her body. But here's what really stunned me. When the police looked into it further, they discovered that my father had been assisting Ethan in concealing the abuse for months. Olivia eventually broke down and told the police everything. Ethan began striking her just 2 months after they married. Every time she threatened to leave or tell someone, my father would intervene, using his real estate contacts to push Olivia's family about their mortgage or threatening to fire her from a job at one of his friend's companies. He even persuaded Olivia's parents that she was mentally disturbed while fabricating allegations about Ethan, employing the same tactics they employed against Sophia. The final event occurred when Olivia was promoted at work, which would have provided her financial independence. Ethan lost control and thrashed her so brutally that she couldn't enter. When she called my father for assistance, he advised her to ice it and remember her wedding vows. That's when her coworker stepped in and called the police. Ethan and my father were both arrested, one for domestic abuse and the other for witness intimidation and conspiracy. My mother urged me to return and help fix things. She kept stating, "The family needs to stick together during a crisis," that Ethan and Dad needed my help, and that Olivia was obviously exaggerating everything, just like Sophia did. I lost it. I informed her how I felt about her enabling Ethan's actions throughout his childhood. I reminded her of what they did to Sophia, and how they decided to support Ethan despite witnessing him assault her at Chloe's wedding. I questioned whether she had ever considered that if they had helped Ethan when he was younger or held him accountable for his behavior, Olivia might not be in the hospital right now. My mother burst into tears, admitting that they should have acted sooner. She acknowledged that she and Dad had always known Ethan had problems, but they believed they were protecting him by keeping everything hidden. Too little, too late. I hung up and blocked her new number. Chloe called me later to confirm some information she'd received from extended family. Olivia's parents are distraught and regret not believing her sooner. They totally support her in bringing accusations against both Ethan and my father. Police are also looking into potential additional victims, since numerous of Ethan's ex-girlfriends have come forward with similar allegations of abuse and stalking. Sophia proposed that we contact Olivia through Chloe and offer her assistance if she requires it, which we will most likely do. Sophia mentioned how fortunate she was to have assistance when coping with Ethan, and Olivia may need someone who understands what she's going through. Some may believe I'm being cold toward my parents, but I've learned that encouraging toxic behavior simply creates more victims. My family had numerous opportunities to change, but they decided not to. Now they can deal with the consequences of their decisions without my assistance. My goal now is to defend my own family, my wife, our unborn daughter, and the quiet life we've created away from their toxicity. Update 4. Many people have messaged me asking for updates on the situation with Ethan, my father, and Olivia, so this is what has happened in the last 6 months. First, some wonderful news from our end. 3 months ago, Sophia and I welcomed our daughter Isla. She's completely healthy and stunningly lovely. Parenthood has been incredible, and it has only confirmed that breaking connections with my problematic family was the correct decision. Chloe and her husband came to see Isla last month, and seeing them with her only confirmed what true family love is like. Now for an update on Ethan's and my father's cases. Chloe has been keeping us updated because she still maintains contact with some distant relatives. Ethan agreed to a plea deal last month. He will serve an 8-year jail sentence for serious domestic abuse, with the possibility of parole after 5 years. My father's case is still ongoing, although his attorney is apparently attempting to work out a settlement. His real estate license has been suspended pending an inquiry, and most of his business partners have parted ways with him. My mother's progress is the most startling. After our previous phone chat, she began therapy. According to Chloe, she has moved out of the family home and filed for divorce from my father last week. She sent me a 12-page letter apologizing for everything, enabling Ethan his entire life, failing to protect me as a child, and, most importantly, how they treated Sophia. She revealed that she and my father had essentially produced the monster Ethan by never holding him accountable. I have not responded to your mail. Part of me respects that she is finally confronting the truth, but it is too little, too late. Where was this understanding when Ethan was torturing animals as a kid? Or while he was stalking Sophia? Or when they witnessed him assaulting her during Chloe's wedding? Sophia and I are still talking about allowing her to have supervised contact with Isla, but that will be years away, if it ever happens. Olivia came out to us via Chloe. She is doing better. She lives with her sister in another state and is having extensive therapy. She has filed for divorce and is completely cooperating with prosecutors. According to Chloe, numerous other women have come forward with claims that Ethan mistreated them in the past, including 2 from his church. The police are looking into those situations as well. Olivia's parents have been wonderfully supportive once the truth was revealed. They publicly apologized to her for not believing her sooner and severed all connections with my parents. They're even collaborating with domestic violence organizations to help other families identify indicators of abuse and manipulation. Our extended family is fundamentally divided into 2 factions. The majority of our younger cousins and relatives have supported us and Olivia, while the older generation continues to make excuses for Ethan and my dad. Chloe's mother, my aunt, has formed a family therapy group for relatives who want to understand how things got so bad and how to make things better for future generations. Sophia and I are focused on our kid and our lives here. Sophia went back to work part-time last week and was promoted to director of pediatric nursing. I'm still working remotely, but I'm considering starting my own software consulting firm. We've created a fantastic community here, complete with amazing friends and chosen family. Sometimes I consider contacting my mother or responding to her letter, but then I look at Isla and think about how my parents would expect me to let Ethan near her if we were still in contact, claiming he deserves another chance. That thought alone reminds me that we made the right decision by staying away. The pattern of cruelty and enabling in my family ends with me. Isla will grow up in an environment that values healthy relationships and respects limits. Cutting off toxic family members is sometimes the best thing you can do for your child, no matter how painful it is. My husband left me in an Italian town after a fight, thinking I'd come back. But I didn't. Now he's the one trying to find me. Let's see how she gets back, Ethan jokes, slamming the car door in the evening air. Our rental car's taillights faded as they disappeared around the tight Italian street, leaving just dust and my husband's friends' laughter. I stood paralyzed, mouth wide mid-sentence. Our disagreement outside the modest cafe was rendered irrelevant by his unimaginable deed. He's coming back, I muttered, getting odd eyes from people eating dinner at sidewalk tables. This is just to scare me. The knot in my stomach intensified as minutes became hours. Darkness fell over the unknown town whose name I couldn't pronounce. I never envisioned Ethan drinking that much at lunch when I begged him not to. His friends, college buddies celebrating their yearly guys' reunion that I grudgingly joined, encouraged him. When I suggested returning to our hotel, Leo replied, "She's always controlling you, man." Ordering another round. Ethan followed me out, his words garbled but his wrath clear. Both sides' years of hatred erupted quickly, making the fight ugly. He hissed, "Your purse has your passport, right?" before getting behind the wheel. "Then you'll figure it out. You're so smart, always telling me what to do." Complete night descended as reality set in. Suddenly, the lovely Italian town felt dangerous. Cash count, €80, $37. Too little for a trip home and a hotel night. Ethan's wallet held my credit cards. When my small purse was full, he offered to carry them. I discovered the lowest pension in a shabby room above a bakery with a tiny bed and corner sink. Although she knew no English, the old woman who escorted me to the room patted my arm affectionately. "He blocked me," I gasped, glancing at my phone. 27 Ethan calls went to voicemail. Unanswered text messages arrived. Leo, Daniel, and all Ethan's carmates were tried. All blocked. I shuddered as I realized this was a premeditated humiliation. Breaks in sleep were punctuated by optimistic phone checks and panic. By daybreak, I believed this nightmare would cease. Ethan would apologize and blame me for overreacting to his joke. I'd be angry but relieved to return to our carefully crafted life in Boston, where he was a respected architect and I was his supporting wife who'd given up her design job to manage their home and social calendar. He didn't arrive. On the second day, I rationed my money and bought only a sandwich for lunch while touring the town's perimeter, checking every hotel and restaurant for our tour group. By dark, I learned they'd gone to Florence without me. On the third day, a friendly cafe proprietor saw me waiting outside and offered me free espresso and, in terrible English, directions to the police station. The officer looked unsurprised by my narrative, as if abandoned tourists were common, but his limited English and my non-existent Italian left me with a filed report and a sympathetic nod. The hardest decision of my life came that afternoon. In front of a crowded pawnshop display, I removed my wedding ring, the 2-carat diamond Ethan had upgraded on our 5th anniversary to replace our humble band. The merchant gave me significantly less than its worth but enough to support my next step. "America, call family?" the pawn trader said, counting euros. Though I nodded mechanically, a different idea was emerging inside. Family meant explaining, hearing my mother's "I told you so" about Ethan's rage, and facing acquaintances who saw our marriage's flaws I'd tried to hide. When I arrived, the bus station was silent. I only saw travel magazine locations on its electronic board. An overnight bus to Rome connected to ferries, buses, and locations Ethan and his buddies wouldn't look for me if they tried. Finger hovered on my father's name and contacts. He sent money for a flight home in one call. One call would take me back to my existence of steadily shrinking to fit Ethan's ego and demands. Ethan joked about hiding my portfolios when I considered returning to interior design. He asked, "Why complicate things? We don't need the money, and I need you focused on our life." I chuckled at it then, but sitting in that dingy station, I viewed it as another fence in his pen surrounding me. "Where you go?" inquired the ticket agent, an older woman with sympathetic eyes who'd been watching me stare at the departure board for 20 minutes. "Greece," I said, realizing my choice. "The furthest coastal village you can get me to." 14 hours later, I fell off the last bus, stiff from uncomfortable seats and strain. A place whose name I couldn't pronounce has whitewashed homes and the fragrance of salt air and olive groves. My phone battery died between nations. My stomach was empty with hunger, and the weight of what I'd done, or been done to me, weighed on my shoulders. Exhaustion blurred my vision as I headed toward the town center. 3 days of emotional whiplash had left me raw, alternating between rage at Ethan, anxiety of my uncertain future, and a strange, unexpected glimmer of deadly release. I could spend 2 nights in the cheapest room with my leftover euros. After that, I had no goal, friends, or local language words beyond please and thank you. But as I watched the sunset turn the Aegean waves gold and pink, I felt tranquil for the first time in years. Ethan wanted to teach me reliance. Instead, he accidentally freed me. As I left the settlement, the Greek sun burnt my feet in sightseeing sandals. Dehydration, hunger, and mental weariness made my world spin after my water bottle ran out hours earlier. Silver-green trees bordered the dusty route, their leaves gleaming like coins in the wind. I faintly saw olive orchards before my knees crumbled. I scarcely felt the ground collide with my face. A peculiar peace swept over me as darkness edged my vision. Maybe it was fitting. Abandoned by my husband in one country, collapsed alone in another. I closed my eyes, exhausted since Ethan left. "Fosmu, Koritsimu? My light, my girl?" She spoke through my haze, followed by aged hands rolling me over. An aged face with deep creases and warm, concerned eyes came into focus. She quickly spoke Greek, caressing my cheeks and offering a canteen. Water revived me enough to sit up, but my head still spun furiously. She called herself Daphne, repeating it while pointing. She gestured Claire. I attempted it. Daphne lifted me up, her petite figure surprisingly strong. She pointed to an olive tree-lined stone home and indicated walking. She led me carefully up the slope, and I nodded, powerless. I entered the farmhouse kitchen to the smell of herbs on wooden beams and something tasty on an ancient stove. Daphne placed me at a shabby wooden table before calling for help. A man's voice responded, and an elderly man with a sunburned face and silver mustache stepped in the doorway cleaning his hands. "Daphne?" Yanis pointed to his wife. He tentatively nodded at me, his eyes inquiring yet friendly. Daphne gave me a drink of chilled water and a bowl of basic soup. As the perfume reached my nose, my stomach growled, making Daphne smile. The evening was a mess of miscommunication. I used minimal words, hand gestures, and tears to describe my circumstance. Daphne nodded like she understood, but I knew she couldn't. Yanis was quiet but attentive, asking Daphne gesture-based questions. I took their spare room, a basic room with whitewashed walls and a tiny bed covered in a handmade quilt. I fell asleep, too fatigued to protest. Crowing roosters and fresh bread greeted morning. The foot of my bed had a basic cotton dress and cardigan that seemed decades old but just laundered. They were loose on me but a wonderful change from my trip suit. Daphne smiled at me and served strong coffee and delicious bread with olive oil and honey in the kitchen. I felt embarrassed after dawn cleared my head. I was fed and clothed by these strangers without inquiry. I needed to explain, pay, and move on. I expressed my thankfulness and want to return to the community using bad English and my phone's translation software, charged by Yanis adapter. Daphne's face dropped quickly. She vigorously shook her head, pointing outside to the rain on the windows and then to my still blistered feet. "Stay," she said, using one of her few English words. "Rest." I tried to depart several times over the next 3 days but was gently resisted. Daphne stopped me at the door with my purse and shoes, her sorrowful expression making me feel guilty. She held my hand and opened a little wooden box on the mantel to expose photos. Her fingers trembled as she pointed to a young woman with Daphne's eyes and Yanis' smile. "Irini, she whispered, pointing far away. Australia. She cradled and held her hand at waist height, indicating a child, shedding tears. Grandbaby, she said in English, pointing to a recent baby photo. No, see? Then I understood. Daphne saw me as a replacement for her daughter. My heart broke for her loss, not manipulation. I nodded slowly and put my purse on the door hook. As I adjusted to their agricultural life, new rituals emerged daily. Daphne taught me how to pick chicken eggs without scaring them and hang laundry so the mountain air would catch it. Yanis patiently taught me to recognize vegetable garden weeds after I accidentally pulled out a herb. The labor was physical, unlike my meticulously groomed life in Boston, yet rewarding in ways I'd forgotten existed. My body objected at first, used to designer gyms and measured workouts. My hands got calluses and muscles I didn't realize ached each night. Each day, my pain subsided and my strength increased. Most crucially, farm chores and language lessons replaced my ongoing mental cycle of abandonment. Sitting on the modest porch while Daphne stitched and Yanis smoked his pipe at night, I found serenity. My betrayal still hurt, but here, among ancient olive trees and rural life, it felt like an unexpected chapter. Daphne sat with me shelling garden peas 2 weeks following my arrival. After thoughtfully studying my face, she asked slowly in her improving English, "Home? You want to go home?" She gestured like a plane and pointed at America. I was surprised by the question. Home. Our stylish Boston brownstone with designer furniture and matching decor came to mind. It also highlighted Ethan's controlling behavior, his helpful management of our finances that left me without independence, his subtle discouragement of my friendships, and his dismissal of my job goals. I cried as I spoke in a language Daphne couldn't comprehend but felt feelings that crossed the linguistic barrier. I told her about Ethan's betrayal, years of gently giving up parts of myself to make peace, and being abandoned like baggage in a distant country. As I spoke, Daphne's aged hand covered mine. She pointed to her heart, then the farm, then me once I finished. It was clear, I could stay if I wished. Work, I responded gently, imitating Yanis's olive tree care. I stay. I work. Daphne's smile burst like the Aegean daybreak. She nodded and squeezed my hand before returning to the peas, as if we'd decided on tomorrow's dinner rather than a life change. My olive-growing education began when I stayed. Next morning, Daphne woke me up with Irene's work attire and thick boots when stars still shone. I followed her and Yanis to the grove, where the first light of dawn barely revealed the ancient trees, half asleep. "Elias," Daphne replied, pointing to the fruit-laden branches. She delicately raked the branches with wooden rakes to release the olives onto nets below. My first attempt rained branches, leaves, and a few olives, prompting Yanis' meticulous correction. My city-soft hands had blisters by mid-morning, the sun shining overhead, and my shoulders burning from exertion. "Boston lady hands," Daphne mocked, scrutinizing my palms at lunch. She returned with a herbal, beeswax-scented salve from the house. The cooling relief was immediate as she put it on my raw flesh. "Tomorrow, better," she said. To her surprise, she was right. I improved my technique, strength, and hands every day. Within weeks, I could work with them for hours without complaining, proud of the fruit piles. Sorting was harder than harvesting. We carefully selected the olives by quality at a large table under a pergola, perfect for premium oil, slightly blemished for second grade, damaged for soap production. Daphne initially watched me closely and gently corrected my blunders. Her corrections decreased as my eye learned minor differences. "You learn fast," Yanis said one evening, improving his terrible English and my basic Greek. He gave me his highest compliment, and I felt warm. I learned beyond the groves in Daphne's kitchen, which originally intimidated me with its lack of modern amenities. My Boston cooking skills included following fancy magazine recipes for dinner gatherings that delighted Ethan's coworkers. Daphne's cuisine was based on years of experience and observation, not measuring cups or temps. "Watch," she'd say, kneading bread dough with practice. I tried to emulate her moves but failed miserably. My first outside stone oven loaves were deformed, underbaked, or burned. Daphne advised me to practice, breaking up my worst attempts to taste them. All learning is waste. I found her acceptance of imperfection revolutionary. In my past, mistakes were hidden, not stepping stones to mastery. The simplicity of their meals showed how processed my American diet was. Everything came from their land or surrounding farms. Sun-warmed veggies, morning eggs, and cheese from the goats down the road. The flavors were fresh and needed only olive oil, lemon, and Daphne's garden herbs. This diet and work altered my body. As lean muscle replaced fat, my luxury clothes loosened. Olive oil soap and sweat brightened my skin, once preserved by pricey creams. A stranger peered back at me in the small mirror over the bathroom sink. Tanner, stronger, and somehow more substantial despite weighing less. Daphne and I communicated beyond labor and food as my Greek vocabulary grew. Her black and white village childhood photos were displayed in her picture albums during evening breaks. I was surprised to learn she taught before joining her family's olive business after marriage. Imitating keyboard typing, she asked, "You?" She saw images of my interior design projects from before marriage on my phone, a career Ethan had disregarded as a hobby. Daphne pointed out her favorites and made admiring sounds as she studied them. She said, "Beautiful thinking," patting her temple. Her affirmation of my creative labor brought tears to my eyes, simple appreciation that Ethan had steadily withheld throughout our marriage. Daphne taught me to knit one rainy afternoon, patiently letting me drop stitches and make uneven rows. My first project was a lumpy, uneven scarf I fashioned by hand. I was more proud of it than the luxury cashmere Ethan gave me for Christmas. Next came a clay mug Giannis helped me make and a woven basket a neighbor taught me. Each thing had hours of study and connection, stories no luxury could. As I became less materialistic, my collection grew. Daphne and Giannis approached me one morning after 3 months of without pay except accommodation and board. They showed me the small amount of olive oil they crushed and packaged from our harvest in a small building. "Market day," Daphne said, pointing to the calendar. "You come." Locals and tourists explored the village market, where farmers and artists sold their items. Daphne and Giannis placed golden green oil, olive soap, and preserved olives on their plain table. They surprised me by placing me at the front of the table to talk to customers. My terrible Greek and their limited English caused confusion and hilarity, but sales increased throughout the day. Daphne gave me a euro envelope after the market closed. "Just, your part," she said. "Fair work, fair pay." I looked at the small amount, maybe enough for one supper at Ethan and my favorite places. This money symbolized independence acquired via hard work, which I hadn't enjoyed in years. No attachments, no hidden gratitude or compliance expectations, just fair pay for honest effort. I kept the envelope beneath my pillow that night, touching it occasionally to establish its authenticity. Ethan took charge of our finances, to simplify things, leaving me with credit cards tied to accounts he oversaw during our decade of marriage. This modest stack of euros was the first step toward reconstructing my life. As I fell asleep, I realized I hadn't thought about Ethan during market day, preoccupied with Greek transaction terms and product pride. Olive trees, cookery courses, and the rising confidence that I was capable of more than he had ever allowed me to believe had replaced him in my thoughts. Daphne and Giannis asked me to dine at the Village Square Taverna the next week, my first since arriving. A borrowed blouse from Daphne made me uneasy as we entered the busy business. Michalis, the owner, enthusiastically hugged the couple before looking at me. "Our American," Daphne proudly remarked in Greek, a term I know refers to me, Claire. Michalis grinned and took us to their usual table. Giannis cleared his throat and spoke carefully English over grilled seafood and village wine. "Claire, we want talk business with you." He surprised me with his seriousness. Had I erred? Was I ready to move on? Daphne patted my hand across the table and continued where her husband left off. "We old now? 68, 70 years?" she said to Giannis. "No children here. Irini not coming back." Giannis nodded solemnly. "We think retire soon. 2, 3 years? But olive trees," he gestured. 200 years old. Need young hands." Understanding made me gasp. Daphne smiled with crinkled eyes. "You learn fast. Work hard. We teach everything." She spread her hands in offering. "Business yours." The idea shocked me. They scarcely knew me, a foreigner who came into their life months before. They offered a future I couldn't foresee. "But I don't know enough," I mumbled. "The trees, the pressing, the business side." "You learn." Giannis insisted. "We teach. No rush." My real apprenticeship began that night. Not only an extra pair of hands, I inherited generations of knowledge. Each morning, Giannis showed me how soil variances affected taste profiles, how to spot disease early, and when to harvest each region for best oil quality. Daphne taught me their business records, which included handwritten ledgers and basic computer spreadsheets their grandson had set up during a holiday visit years earlier. She tracked income and expenses in a useful but archaic way. I spent hours improving their systems to simplify inventory and sales monitoring. "Look," I showed Daphne one night how to filter the spreadsheet to reveal which oils sold best at which marketplaces. Her eyes expanded as numbers revealed patterns. "Smart," she nodded. "Boston lady brain good for business." With their permission, I made minor marketing changes. I learned about flavor profiles and meal pairings from Daphne's many culinary classes and updated our hand-labeled bottles. I answered tourists' questions at our market stand with a simple pamphlet on their traditional practices. I made connections outside Daphne and Yiannis' circle as my Greek improved. The pharmacist who prescribed Daphne's blood pressure medicine stopped by our market booth for non-business chats. The baker's wife invited me to her monthly coffee with village women, a daunting yet valuable immersion in local language and customs. When the taverna started serving our premium oil and placing small cards with our new labels on each table, Michalis became an unexpected ally. Good for you. Good for me. He winked when I thanked him. 2 nearby eateries contacted us about providing after hearing about us. I attended my first village ceremony, the butcher's granddaughter's christening, 6 months into my new existence. From the rear of the modest church, I watched the community ritual with a lump in my throat. The elderly priest recognized me and greeted me afterward, stopping his Athens seminary English. "You bring new life to Old Grove," he murmured, his rheumy eyes gleaming. "Good for village. Young people leave for Athens, for America. Village needs new blood." His acceptance seemed to eliminate the last obstacle. After that, name day celebrations, beach parties, and village committee meetings concerning the summer festival were more frequent. Each incident added to my web of connections. Zoe, the weaver next to our weekly market stall, became a friend. Young widow, she had a sharp wit and pragmatic approach like my college friend. Our chats in my increasing Greek and her superb English covered business plans, village gossip, and personal observations. You never speak of America," she said quietly as we packed away our unsold products. "Family there? Friends?" Question stung me abruptly. I'd forgotten my former life since I was so concentrated on my new one. My parents died years ago. A few friends, but... I paused, recognizing Ethan had steadily removed me from my support network by continuously finding reasons why my college pals were difficult or work colleagues used me. Zoe nodded knowingly. "The husband who left you in Italy? You never say his name." "Ethan," I began, the word strange after months of stillness. "His name is Ethan." Her honesty was refreshing after months of Daphne and Yiannis' subtle evasion. "I don't know," I said. "I haven't checked." My phone, I waved unclearly. I had turned it on sometimes to shoot shots but had abandoned my American email and social networks, afraid of what may be there. Zoe arched her eyebrow. "Perhaps time to look. Not for him. For you. To close the door properly." I remembered her words. After helping Daphne cook dinner, I charged my ancient phone and connected to the farmhouse's basic Wi-Fi in my room. I signed into my neglected email account with shaky fingers. The screen showed hundreds of unread messages. Several former pals sent me messages ranging from casual check-ins to serious queries. I felt shame as I withdrew from their lives without explanation, just as I had from Ethan's. I noticed a post from my former design mentor. Job opportunity, followed by urgent follow-ups. Opening it revealed she recommended me for a remote consulting employment with a sustainable building materials company. The final email, 2 weeks ago, said the post was still open if I was interested. Ethan Davis email with the subject line, "I know where you are." Froze my fingers before I could examine this unexpected bridge to my former existence. It arrived hours earlier, according to the timestamp. I opened it, heart racing. "Claire, it's taken months and a private investigator, but I finally tracked you to that backwater in Greece. This has gone on long enough. I'm coming to bring you home and end this ridiculous tantrum. My flight lands in Athens on Thursday. Be ready." 3 days from now. The room whirled as panic and wrath crashed in my chest. How dare he? After months without speaking, he expected to find me like lost luggage. As I stumbled downstairs, I held my phone. Daphne looked up from the account ledger on the kitchen table, her smile dimming as she saw my reaction. "Bad news from America," she whispered. "Ethan," I did. "He's coming here. Thursday." Daphne narrowed her gaze. She slipped an envelope across the table toward me from under the ledger. Good timing then? Was waiting for right moment. Greek-English legal documents carrying my name and Daphne and Yiannis were inside. "Partnership agreement," Daphne said. "1/3 business yours now, not future now." I stared at the document, tears in my eyes, recognizing its meaning. Genuine collaboration, not simply job or apprenticeship. Room to stay, basis to build on. Not charity, but honor. "You choose what happens Thursday," Daphne replied firmly, striking the papers. "You have home here, business here, friends here." She pointed at my phone. "That man, he no longer decides." Her words enveloped me in assurance. I felt anchored for the first time since being abandoned in that Italian town. Ethan arrived to find a drastically different woman than the one he left. The ensuing days were a whirlwind of preparation, not Ethan's style. No bags or tears, only emotional fortification. Sophia, the village's only lawyer, helped me write Greek and English divorce documents. I tentatively accepted remote consultation from my former design mentor. I even emailed friends I left behind, explaining briefly without regrets. On Thursday, the Greek summer sky was clear and bright. Yanis and I were evaluating olive oil samples in the processing shed when a rental car engine started up in the afternoon. Daphne stood at the threshold, worried yet determined. "He is here," she said. Heart racing, I wiped my hands on my work apron and left. Ethan stood outside a silver automobile with fashionable sunglasses on his nicely coiffed hair, disliking the rustic cottage. I knew his casual but costly travel suit from previous business trips. Tailored chinos and a button-down that probably cost more than a week's olive oil profit. He initially ignored me, allowing me precious seconds to calm down. The ancient olive trees and aged stone buildings of my birthplace made this man who had once been my world seem smaller. "Ethan," I called, calmly to my surprise. His bewilderment when he turned was nearly funny. He looked from my work boots to my sun-browned arms, then at my scrunchy tied hair. I watched his face struggle with recognition and incredulity. "My God, Claire, what happened to you?" The familiar, critical tone that formerly would have sent me racing to rectify whatever he found missing now flowed over me like a wave. "Life happened," I said, approaching him slowly. "What are you doing here, Ethan?" His charm slipped into place as he removed his sunglasses and extended his arms. "I've come to take you home, of course. This has gone on long enough, don't you think? Whatever point you were trying to make." "This isn't about making a point," I said, halting far away. "This is about making a life." His smile sank. I heard Daphne and Yanis leaving the home quietly behind me. While they couldn't understand us, they hid in plain sight, ready to act. Ethan hardened as he saw them. "Are these the people you've been staying with? Have they been holding you here? Because if so..." I interrupted. "They've been teaching me. About olive farming, about community, about kindness without conditions." I pointed to the woods. "I'm part owner now. I have a business here." He looked incredulous, then condescending, as I knew. "A business, Claire? Be serious. You're a designer, not a farmer. This is what, some eat, pray, love phase after our fight?" "I admit I shouldn't have left you in Italy. It was a stupid, drunken mistake. I've apologized. Now it's time to come home." "You've apologized? When? In what universe does tracking me down and demanding I return count as an apology?" The charm vanished as his jaw tightened. "Fine. I'm sorry I left you in Italy. It was immature and wrong. Is that what you want to hear? Can we move past this now? Why did you even look for me, Ethan? It's been months. Why now?" He shuffled uncomfortable, seeing the old couple observing us carefully. "Can we discuss this privately? In the car, perhaps? They don't speak English, and I have nothing to hide from them." "Why now?" His shoulders sagged. "Your parents have been calling. Friends asking questions at events. Clients wondering why you're not at the house when they visit. It looks," he said. "Bad for your image," I said. "It damaged your reputation?" "Our reputation," he retorted. "Our life together. The one we built over 10 years of marriage." "The one you built," I said. "The one where I gradually became nothing more than an accessory to your success. Tell me, Ethan, did you even notice how unhappy I was before Italy? Did you care?" His expression grew darker. "We had a good life, Claire. A beautiful home, financial security, respect in the community. What more could you possibly want? I found purpose, connection, and agency over my own choices here, in a place you dismiss as primitive and backward." I pointed to the modest stone home behind me. He protested, "This isn't you," sounding desperate. "The Claire I know wouldn't choose manual labor and poverty over comfort and position." I grinned, understanding his statement's core truth. "You're right. The Claire you knew wouldn't have. But that woman died in Italy when her husband abandoned her as a joke. The woman standing before you made different choices." Daphne came over and pressed our partnership agreement into my palm. She recognized the occasion even though she couldn't follow our words. The document was unfolded and held to Ethan. "I have legal ties here now. A business partnership. Responsibilities to people who value me for my contributions, not my appearance or social connections." Face flushed with rage. "This is ridiculous. Whatever game you're playing?" "It's not a game," I answered, taking Sophia's envelope from my pocket. These are divorce papers, Ethan. Already filed, with provisions for division of assets. He studied the package as if it may burn him. You can't be serious. You'd throw away everything for this? He mocked the small property. I'm not throwing away anything. I'm choosing something better, something real. I approached and placed the envelope in his hard hand. You left me, Ethan. You drove away laughing. You just never expected I'd find my way without you. His fingers immediately wrapped around the documents, his expression alternating between amazement, wrath, and wounded pride. You'll regret this, he muttered, but even he thought the threat was empty. When the novelty wears off and you're still hauling olives in the hot sun at 60, you'll remember what you gave up. Maybe, I said. But I'd rather risk regret from choices I made than live with the certainty of regret from choices made for me. Yanis went closer and placed a worn hand on my shoulder. Despite not understanding our conversation, he saw the conclusion in our body language. He spoke Greek to Ethan in a stern but loving manner. What did he say? Ethan inquired, lowering his voice. He said the road back to Athens is dangerous after dark. You should leave now to reach the city before nightfall. Ethan looked between us and realized this wasn't a negotiation or rescue. Adieu. He returned to his rented car with the divorce papers without saying a word. Daphne put her hand in mine as the car drove off the dirt road. The three of us turned toward my residence. Tonight's tasks: cataloging oil samples, cooking dinner, and checking tomorrow's market inventory. My spouse left me in a strange nation, thinking I'd be powerless and return after learning my lesson. Instead, I discovered fertile footing to grow stronger and deeper roots than he expected. The cruelest actions can bring the greatest blessings. Ethan accidentally freed me while trying to break me. My boyfriend lied to me about having a vasectomy which got me pregnant. And now I feel disgusted when I touch him. I, female 34, have been in a relationship with Finn, male 47, for a little over a year. I live on my own and he lives on his own, but occasionally I spend the night at his place. Finn is handsome, fit, funny, and charitable. His kindness was what caught my attention. He was just a very thoughtful and kind man, and I love that about him. I have struggles with PTSD, so I don't feel comfortable with intimacy until I feel safe and trust that person. Finn said he understood and didn't press it. We didn't start getting intimate until 2 months in, but I was pretty drunk, so I was upset the next morning and he comforted me. He didn't get angry or blame me at all. After that, we had a healthy sex life. I was adamant he wears protection every time. Once while we were in the middle of playtime, he asked if he could take the condom off. I said no, and he said that it wasn't feeling good to him and he is unable to climax with one on. I said no again. Afterwards, he didn't cuddle or hold me like he always did and said nothing to me. I got up to get water and asked if he needed anything and leaned over to kiss his cheek. He shied away from my kiss and muttered, "Oh, now you care about me?" I asked him what that was about and he told me he bends over backwards to make me happy, but he didn't get to feel good because I won't let him not wear a condom. I told him I am very worried about pregnancy. I live in a place where abortions are extremely difficult. He said I am on birth control, so what's the issue? I said that's not 100% and he knew it. I grabbed him some water and told him that if he got a vasectomy, we could talk. They are reversible and accessible. I just cannot get pregnant. We didn't discuss it again and he even apologized for being a jerk the very next morning and took me to the spa. I apologized for ruining the night and he said it was alright and we kinda moved on. Everything was great, and around the 6-month mark, he said he thinks we are getting serious and that he considers me his partner, and asked about the condoms again. I reminded him of my requirement for that and he said he had to think about it. About 2 months ago, he had a work trip that lasted a week and a half, and when he returned he was all over me. At the time I was going through a difficult depression. I suffer from depression and sometimes it gets really bad. He seemed annoyed and made a remark that I am punishing him for missing and loving me so much, and he held my face and started kissing me again. After the back and forth for a few more minutes, I just gave up and we had sex. In the middle of it, he asked if he could take off the condom and I said no, but he said he had the vasectomy. He was so excited to get me in bed he had forgotten to tell me. I stupidly said, well, all right then. After that he would forget the condemnation altogether, until my cycle was off. At first I figured it was stress, change in diet, a billion other possible reasons, but this nagging feeling came over me and I got tested. Pregnant. He found me crying on his bathroom floor and asked what was wrong, so I told him and he smiled and laughed like, "Really? That's amazing, baby?" And left me there and he went whooping through the other room. When he came back he was rattling off so much info. He had a dream about this and now it's happening, so it must be a sign. My brain finally caught up and I asked about the vasectomy and he said, it's not 100%, right? Like condoms and pills. I was puzzled as the only goalie we took out of the equation was condoms. He said it was a miracle and I told him absolutely not. I explained that my best friend lives in a different state and I will be going to visit and also benefit from the reproductive health clinics there. He went silent. He asked me if I really hated him that much and I didn't understand. I said I never want to be pregnant and that he knew this about me. That hasn't changed. He became extremely angry with me, saying I wouldn't dare murder his child and that if I loved him, I would never threaten that again. He explained that he will take care of us. He makes plenty of money and, don't I treat you like a queen? So all he is asking is that I have the baby. I said I needed to go and started packing to go home and he followed me repeating things like, you won't though, right? You won't murder my baby? And stuff like that. He kept asking where I was going and I said home. I was too tired and emotional right now and I want to go home. He stepped in the doorway and said no and we needed to talk about this. I started to get upset as he was blocking me and I felt trapped. I asked him to move and he said no. I asked him again, I want to go home, and he said no again. He said, you are not leaving, what part of that don't you get? I started crying and grabbed my phone and backed away from him, telling him to stay away from me. Finn looked really sad and said I couldn't be serious. He would never hurt me and asked me to stop crying. I demanded he let me leave and he did. He has since been calling and texting me begging me to talk to him. He says I really hurt him by pretending to be scared of him as I know he would never hurt me. He said he treats me like a goddess and I played the helpless victim card and that things like that can ruin a man's life. He then said that I wasn't thinking straight and, is your brain lying to you again? When I have a PTSD or depressive episode I sometimes say my brain is lying to me again, to make it seem less heavy a topic. He has a very community-facing job and I remembered the look on his face when I backed away. I don't want to ruin his life or our relationship. At that moment my emotions were so high that I just reacted. But I wasn't pretending. I sat in my car for God knows how long, shaking before I could drive home. I've been ignoring his reaching out but I feel like a coward. Am I? The A. Am I? The A has no consensus bot. OP received mixed reactions. Relevant comments: omeprazole mommy. He literally lied about getting a vasectomy and got you pregnant after you had explicitly set boundaries. OP on if she lied about birth control to her boyfriend. OP answer, I am on the patch. Never lied about that. Update. He broke up with me and called me a murderer. So I made an appointment and got the abortion. It was honestly such a horrible experience, but my bestie was with me and the whole staff were so kind and supportive, so I am grateful. Thank you to those who encouraged me to get it done. It was awful, but pregnancy and being trapped with him would have been much worse. Finn texted Wednesday and apologized and said he said things he didn't mean, and to please answer my phone as I have been ignoring him. When he called again my bestie recorded it all. Before I could finish hello, he went on a long bit about how amazing I am, how much he loves me, what a great mother he knows I will be, and he will marry me immediately if that's a concern of mine. When I finally got to talk I said that I am no longer pregnant and I never want to be and that I was clear about this from the beginning. He asked if it was miscarriage and then said, because I know you wouldn't willingly murder our child, right? Say right. It's a miscarriage. I got quiet and he said that it's okay. Miscarriages are not the female's fault, and that we can just try again. I said, again? We weren't trying to begin with. I was on BC and he had the vasectomy. And you all guessed it, he laughed and said he lied about the vasectomy so I would give up on condoms, that he long decided I was perfect and he loved me and wanted me to be the mother of his kids. My best friend spoke up and said that was recorded and to leave me alone or she will post it on social media, and he started screaming at us. He then sounded like he was crying and said I was a witch for this. That I am a hateful murderer, and that I broke his heart. He went on to say if I tried to slander him to remember, actions have consequences. He then broke up with me and said he will check back with me in a few days when I am actually alone and we will talk in person to see if I have come to my senses. He wants us to go to church together Sunday, which is now today, and set a time to pick me up. I said no, but I do have a ring cam, and sure enough he showed up at my door. I watched him note my car was not there, and at my front door, on camera, he texted me asking if I was sleeping around on him and if I let the other man ride you like a wild horse without a condom, and if so he gets a hall pass. He said to come home immediately as we need to come to an understanding of our relationship ASAP. I return home tomorrow and don't know what to do. Edit. Anyone who wants to shame my abortion, I have zero regrets, and actually will advocate for them from now on. but I will happily mock you in the comments. Thanks actually. You reminded me how little an opinion means to me if it's coming from a disrespectful and/or bigoted place. At least I get to laugh through this nightmare. Edit 2. I won't be going home alone any longer. My bestie is coming with me and I have a friend in the city I live with my spare key and he is now in my home watching it for me. Edit 3. Since I've been asked in the comments, this really blew up. So sorry if I don't reply to you all. I am in a safe location with 2 male friends who know the whole story and we are looking into options. I don't want to do anything hasty. A guy friend is at my home and thus far it's been quiet. I will make an update when I know more. Edit 4. No, I will not harm myself the way some of you have messaged me. For those calling themselves pro-life, you sure want me to take my own. Not very pro-life at all. And since we're on the topic, I don't want to get pregnant because I was told by my doctors that I have a high chance of passing away, even before making it to term. The child also has a high rate of mortality during the pregnancy. Essentially, we would both kick the bucket before delivery. I am ineligible for tubals or hysterectomy where I live until I turn 40, especially with my insurance, and I would never be able to afford the out-of-pocket fee. The places even still require a husband's signature as a policy. I would be open to adopting if I ever found the right person, and were settled and ready. Relevant comments Aquavanatus. This isn't about you getting an abortion. This is about your ex not respecting you enough to attempt baby-trapping you into a long-term relationship and/or marriage. He doesn't respect you or your choices. He lied to you about having a vasectomy. He's gaslighting you and trying to control you. You need to bring that recording to the police ASAP and file for a restraining order because your ex won't stop until he's faced with the consequences of his actions. Remain vigilant. Stay safe. OP answer. Thank you, and to everyone who's been telling me this. I am starting to feel less like I am crazy and more like I need to take action and protect myself from this guy. I think I trusted him so much. I would have happily married him. He said he didn't want kids when we met. This is all a lot, but it's helping me understand more and more that I am being played sandbar Lakers. Everyone's saying get a lawyer ASAP. But she might not even be able to afford one. OP. Is there anyone who can go home with you? I truly have you safe. Keep us posted, and not because this is interesting but because there are those of us who genuinely are concerned and care. OP answer. I can't afford one. I work in the arts and just would never be able to swing the costs I am seeing online. My bestie is returning home with me and I have a friend at home who is house sitting now. Mysterious. Ben 4354. Isn't the thing he did called reproductive violence? Can he be charged with rape for this? If it's possible, you should definitely go to the police and press charges against him. He's such an asshole. OP answer. This has been brought up, but it's the first I've heard of such a thing, so bestie and I are checking. Every state has its own rules, so we will see. Mine is not pro-choice friendly. Professional Zone 168. The part about him wanting you to go to church with him disturbs me. What kind of church is it? Do you think that he's being egged on by fellow church members? Please consider going to stay with a friend for a while, and then maybe with a family member or another friend after that. This dude sounds scary AF, no lie. OP answer. He goes to a mega church with a coffee shop in it but only on holidays. I told him I did not want to participate and only went with him because he begged for Easter. It was bigger than a 90s shopping mall with a shop and everything. Update 2. I actually forgot about my post, so I apologize. I didn't even realize so many of you messaged me to check in or offer kind words. A lot happened in a short time, but I will try to make it brief. Finn came to my home again, but I was not home. When my ring came, I saw him have a total fit. He was cursing me out, calling me on the phone, and when he got my voicemail he muttered, "I'm going to fucking kill her," over and over again, and said it super loud once before walking off. I have been getting a lot of hate mail, texts, and the like calling me a murderer. My Facebook was flooded with these messages as well, and most of the profiles were people who went to Finn's church. So I sent him a text that either the harassment stops or I will post the recordings of him. All of them. The call, his threats, the texts, his voicemails. All of it. He replied, "I have been patient in my love for you, but you are being a brat." And went on to say, that I need to come to my senses and meet with him, because he will no longer spoil me. And, discipline needs to be introduced to our relationship, because actions have consequences. As for the rest I will skip over a bit for the sake of brevity. My bestie said that I should go to the police and we did, but nothing concrete has come of it yet. Something I low-key expected, honestly. It's a small little city outside a bigger, more populated one, and the small town vibes can run deep in certain circles. Many of the people go to the church Finn is at, and that includes a lot of the police department. It came to a head last week when I sent some of the recordings to his parents who are on staff at the local megachurch in the area. His mom responded and asked to meet with me, so I went with my bestie to a public spot in the city. When she met with me, she was incredibly apologetic and said that his position at the church is terminated. The staff will meet about this and decide on the full measure of consequences as his church family. She told me that she herself had an abortion before Finn was born, and her decision to do so came hugely from the fact that the father was manipulative and abusive, and she was not ready to be a mother even if she had a reliable and loving partner and co-parent. She went on to meet Finn's father and married him and had her children. She told me that she isn't sure if I had an abortion or miscarriage, but either way, I should not be harassed by Christians claiming to be pro-life. I can't explain to you the relief those words gave me considering the vile that was messaged to me. Finn's sister reached out to me via text to share that she does not condone what her brother has been doing, and to reach out if I needed anything. Finn later was arrested for assault. I came to find out, but I don't know who he assaulted or why. Just that he was taken into custody, and as he put me down as his partner, I was called to pick him up as he had been released. The running assumption is that he kept him sober up before releasing him. I didn't. I have since been looking for a new place to live as he knows my address and has come by more than a couple times. I am staying with two of my best friends away from my town, and my home is more or less storage for my things until I find a place to move. All things considered, I am actually really happy. My friends threw me a Yeetus that fetus party and decorated the place with the troll comments from my last post. They made a piñata with scrapped paper with his texts and that of his church pals, and instead of candy it had condoms, small bottle of lube, and paper. That was my last surprise. They pooled together a nice-sized donation to reproductive health clinic near my city, and they pledged hours to volunteer. We are taking a summer trip together to have a hot girl summer kickoff and have many things planned. The two male friends I am staying with check on my house for me and saw Finn there once and made it clear under no uncertain terms that I was protected, and that if he tries to make more trouble that actions have consequences. I have it recorded on my ring cam and it was glorious. Finn sent me a text telling me that I am a cruel witch that ruined his life and broke his heart, all because he loved me, but to not trouble myself with acting, scared of him more because he is leaving the state soon for a new job anyway. He did end the message with, I have, do, and always will love you, and perhaps one day your cold heart will melt and you can find within it your buried love for me. Like, bro, take the sugar out of your Kool-Aid because I ain't drinking it anymore. Not to say everything is sunshine and roses. I have been in a lot of therapy, and found that I overlooked a lot of red flags and have to unlearn a lot of people's pleasing behaviors to become a more confident and true version of myself. Plus, my friends don't really fully believe he is leaving town, so I am still staying with them for the time being. I love them a lot, but it's like having 4 older siblings fussing about like mother hens. I cannot wait to have my new place. Thanks to you all for the kindness and support. I think this is my last update on the matter, as I don't intend on wasting any more time than I have to on that abusive price of garbage. Remember, you know yourself best and can love yourself best. Life is too short not to make the right choices for yourself, your well-being, and your happiness, because you matter. Comments Aqua Venatus. I'm glad your ex's mother and sister are on your side. And I'm glad you have friends who are looking out for you and your safety. I know you don't want to, but keep all of the disgusting messages your ex sends you, because now that he's been charged with assault, the next time you file a police report against him, they'll have no choice but to take it seriously. Meanwhile, continue your healing process and I hope you'll have peace soon. I'm glad you're safe. Final update. Sorry, but the phrase is still funny to me. All caught up? Great. So I moved. I took a pay cut and moved to Austin. I can say that now free of worry because Finn? Well, he's in prison. For murder. I know a disjointed rendition of what happened. Finn got drunk out of his mind at a local bar, then shit-talked a retired Marine because the Marine spoke about his wife's abortion. I had since gotten a new job in Austin, Texas, and was moving when I heard. Finn's father asked me to testify to his character and to say my abortion caused this. I obviously didn't. I moved with only the essentials and had a wonderful summer traveling with friends. I just got back last week and am now unpacking my new home. Unrelated, but Austin is a fun freaking city. When I got back and logged on, I saw a lot of you were concerned about my safety, so I wanted to update. I'm totally okay. Already have new friends, and am going to adopt possibly the cutest little senior Yorkie. I am literally in the waiting room where they will bring him out after he gets all his medical out of the way. I am also in the virtual queue for an adult Rottweiler, and it sounds like I might get her. So I may have her by the time the work week begins. Anyway, I wanted to say thanks to everyone who was supportive, and also I admit to rubbing my happiness in the face of the trolls who wished me misery. I am petty. Sue me. Ciao. Relevant comments, lost. Advertising 232. New and happy beginnings. Cheers, OP answer. It's exciting and the people here are so sweet. For the first time in a long time, I am really looking forward optimistically. Loser swim. I feel like there were a lot of things he did that we don't see. OP probably had a hard time differentiating her post-traumatic stress disorder reactions from normal healthy reactions. He does something cruel and she can't decide if she's seeing his actions as cruel because of post-traumatic stress disorder, or because he is cruel. Prestige. No love. It's weird that people are focusing on the abortion even though he raped her. Like he legit took the condom off with false pretenses and that's one of the definitions of rape. I'm glad she's safe but I hate that she got so much hate in the first place. Also he is talking about how Christian he is, but he wanted a baby out of wedlock. He just wanted to control a woman's body, even though she explicitly said she didn't want kids. Salt pipe. Warner, 89. Also, a lot of people are missing some obvious points about the vasectomy. A lot of heartache could have been avoided here if OP knew that vasectomies don't work that way. He was only able to manipulate her because she didn't know the facts. So in case anyone else is reading for whom this would help, vasectomies are not really reversible. You have to sign a form acknowledging this when you get one. While there is an operation that can attempt a reversal, the success rate is low, and gets lower as time goes by. Vasectomies don't take effect immediately. It can take months until you're sterile, and there is always a follow-up check. It's not a valid form of birth control until after the check. This varies by individual, but vasectomies are generally uncomfortable. It's unlikely that someone who just had one will be up for anything for a little while. Stepdad's birthday gift turned nightmare, hidden camera found in clock. The shocking truth about who really planted it. For my 18th birthday, my stepdad gifted me a clock. When I discovered a hidden camera inside, I fled, suspecting him, but later found out the new assistant was responsible for spying on me. I'm 18 and live with my mom and stepdad Joshua. My mom married Josh 6 months ago after a rough divorce with my dad, who had an affair. It was a messy situation, and now neither my mom nor I have any contact with him. Josh has been a family friend for as long as I can remember. I never suspected he had feelings for my mom, and I don't think anything happened between them before the divorce. Growing up, I called him Uncle Josh and spent time at his dental practice, so it was a bit of an adjustment seeing him as a father figure. But I always liked him. And he makes my mom happy, so I went with it. Yesterday was my birthday, and I usually don't make a big deal out of it. I went to school, then hung out with friends. It was a nice day. When I got home, I was surprised to find out my mom and Josh had planned a surprise party for me. This was quite a shock because my mom is usually terrible at keeping secrets. I walked in to find my mom, Josh, Aunt Kathy and my little cousins ready to surprise me. It was actually quite nice. We celebrated with cake and my favorite foods, and everyone seemed happy. Then came the time for presents, which is where things took a turn. I opened gifts from my cousins and Aunt Kathy first. Then my mom and Josh gave me concert tickets to one of my favorite bands. I was thrilled because I had been saving up for ages to buy a ticket with my part-time diner job. It felt like the best birthday gift ever. After my aunt and cousins left, I went to my room to tell my best friend about the tickets. I was in bed chatting with her when Josh knocked on my door, saying he had one more present for me. I was already so happy with the tickets that I couldn't imagine anything better. Josh brought out a huge box and I tore into the wrapping. Inside was a pink wall clock with little strawberry decals. It was cute but seemed underwhelming compared to the concert tickets. Nevertheless, I was grateful and placed it on my study table. Josh asked if I liked it and I said yes. He was really happy and mentioned that the concert tickets were my mom's idea, but he wanted to get me something special on his own. My room is decorated in pink with lots of strawberry-themed items, so the clock fit perfectly. I appreciated the thought and thanked him again for being so considerate. He wished me a happy birthday once more and left. Feeling sleepy, I told Amy I was going to bed and would talk to her the next day. She had been on the call and heard Josh come in, asking what he got me. When I told her it was a clock, she insisted I show it to her. I promised to send a picture the next morning, but she was persistent, so I agreed to take a picture and send it right then, even though I didn't want to get out of bed. So she would have to settle for a terrible dark picture with my flash on. My study table is right beside my bed, so when I'm lying down, I can just barely reach it. Feeling extremely lazy, I decided to stretch out and snap the picture from bed. That's when I noticed something really odd. My room was pitch dark. I don't have any night lights or fairy lights because I need complete darkness to sleep. I grabbed my phone, opened the camera, turned on the flash, and aimed it at the clock. That's when I saw it. A small bluish light on the clock. The time flashed in a soft pink, but there was a noticeable blue light. I found it strange but didn't think much of it. I took the picture, sent it to Amy and tried to sleep. I was almost asleep when I remembered something from a movie or TV show and instantly sat up. I glanced at the clock again, did a quick search on Google, and attempted to take another picture, this time with my front camera. Guess what? The same blue light confirmed it. There was a hidden camera in that clock. In case you didn't know, you can detect hidden cameras using the front cameras on most phones, and sometimes even the back camera. I'm not sure exactly where I learned this, but I'm a huge fan of crime documentaries, so maybe I picked it up from a show or something. I was convinced there was a camera in that clock, and it was recording me. I felt a knot in my stomach. I didn't know what was going on. Why would Josh give me something like that? Someone might have been watching me right then and there. That thought snapped me out of my shock. I got up, threw the clock in the trash, and when I returned to bed I was trembling and confused. I didn't understand what was happening. It all seemed surreal. I didn't know what to do, so I called Amy and woke her up. I explained what happened and she was just as freaked out as I was. We stayed on the call for a while and she suggested I call the cops because clearly, Josh was some sort of creep, and who knows where else he might have hidden cameras. The thought made my stomach churn. I considered going straight to my mom and Josh to tell them what happened, but I was so confused and scared at that moment it almost felt like a nightmare. Amy and I ventured online to locate a particular clock on a dubious website. After some thorough searching, we finally found it. The site was filled with eerie surveillance gadgets and similar items. The most unsettling part was spotting stuffed animals there, which made me even more uneasy since I own many stuffed animals, some gifted by my mom and Josh over the years. It made me wonder if any of them could have hidden cameras. I began feeling like everything in my room was watching me. It was one of the most distressing experiences I've had. Unsure of what else to do, I gathered all the stuffed animals that I hadn't bought myself, along with the clock, stuffed them into a trash bag and got rid of them. Feeling physically ill, I decided to just sleep it off and handle it in the morning. I took some melatonin, played some white noise, and tried to sleep. I don't remember when I fell asleep, but I know it wasn't much. My mom woke me up, shouting my name. Disoriented, it took me a moment to understand that she was yelling about the wall clock. She said Josh found it while taking out the trash that morning and was deeply hurt by my actions. I took a deep breath and told her to give me a moment so I could explain everything, confident that she would understand why I was relieved to have thrown it away. She called me an ungrateful brat, saying I wasn't worth the effort they put into making my birthday special, and demanded that I apologize to Joshua immediately. Before I get into what happened next, keep in mind it was very early in the morning, just before 7 a.m. I had a rough night and barely slept. My mom's agitation put me in a bad mood too. So when she told me to apologize, I snapped back that Josh was lucky I wasn't reporting him to the police for being a massive creep. My mom lost it and slapped me. I was shocked. In 18 years, she had never raised a hand to me and now she did it over a man. I was offended and deeply hurt. The full reality of the situation hit me and I started to cry. My mom thought I was crying because of the slap, but it was more than that. I was overwhelmed and needed her support, but she only made things worse. She saw me crying and said there was no point in it, that I should have thought before acting like a brat and throwing away a thoughtful gift. That was the last straw. I got really angry and yelled that she should think twice before defending her husband. She got even angrier and warned me to be careful about what I said next. I had enough. I got out of bed, grabbed my phone and car keys and asked her if she knew where Josh got the clock from. She thought I was implying it was a cheap gift, which wasn't the point at all. As she started to say something else, I told her I'd had enough and didn't want to hear it. I pushed past her, ran to my car and drove away. She followed me to the driveway and tried to stop me, but I was quick enough to get away. I drove to a nearby diner and sat there for a while, trying to figure out my next move. Knowing I couldn't go home, I called Amy and she told me to come over to her place. That's where I've been since the afternoon. Amy and I decided to confront my mom and tell her the truth, so we sent her screenshots of the creepy site where the clock was listed. I sent them to her and waited. About an hour later, I started getting calls and texts from both her and Josh. I didn't want to talk to either of them, so I ignored the calls, but the texts were all apologies. They both said they were ashamed of how they acted and should have given me a chance to talk instead of lashing out. They offered to explain if I gave them a chance, but I honestly didn't care. I couldn't see how this could be explained or made okay, and I definitely didn't want to go back home. I texted my mom, telling her to stop trying to reach me because I wasn't interested in hearing her out. She replied with a long message saying that Josh was innocent and would never do anything like that. Apparently, the wall clock was bought by his assistant Peter. Josh did want to get me something for my birthday without Mom's help but didn't care enough to pick something out himself, so he asked Peter. Peter is a new guy working for Josh for the last few months. Josh hired him fresh out of college, so he's not much older than me. Since Josh's practice is nearby, he sometimes sends Peter to run errands like getting his lunch, and he has even come to dinner, so I've met him a few times. He always seemed kind of creepy to me, so it wasn't a big surprise that he would try something like this. He never even tried to talk to me directly, and I had no reason to believe he was capable of doing something like that. My mom's text said they wanted to call the cops on Peter but wouldn't do it without my permission. She also said she would leave Josh because he put me in this spot with his carelessness. That shocked me because I know my mom really loves Josh, so it must have been hard for her to say that. This finally made me call her. My mom sounded devastated. She had no idea about the camera and felt incredibly guilty for not believing me earlier. She kept sobbing and apologized a million times, saying she was sorry for everything, especially for slapping me and not listening when I needed her most. She said she just wanted me to come back home so she could apologize in person and make things right between us. I told her I still wasn't ready to see her but asked if she was sure it was Peter and not Josh who bought the clock. She said she trusts Josh. I told her I was still not comfortable living in the same house as him and she said I was more important to her, and if I wanted to, she would get separated from Josh. I told her I needed time to think. Also, I got a million missed calls from Josh, but I didn't pick up any of them. He texted me many times, saying he can prove that Peter bought the clock and that he had no idea it had a camera. He also said my mom wasn't speaking to him and begged me to hear him out. He said he loved my mom and me as a daughter and would never do anything to hurt us. So that's what my day has been like. Amy has been my rock and said I can stay with her as long as I need. It's just her and her grandma at their house, and I know her grandma well, so I'm sure she won't mind me staying until I figure out my next move. My mom has even tried to reach Amy, but she didn't pick up. It's not hard to figure out where I would go in a situation like this, but I hope she doesn't actually show up at her door. I feel really guilty and conflicted. I think maybe I should hear him out and see if he actually has proof, but at the same time, I feel scared and unsafe at the thought of seeing him. I don't want to destroy my mom's marriage over a misunderstanding, but I'm wondering if I'm doing something wrong here. Amy says I should do what feels right to me, but I'm not sure at all. Update 1. I did not expect to become Reddit famous overnight. The response to my post has been overwhelming, with so many questions and comments that I haven't even had a chance to read through them all. But I have some major updates to share first. The morning after my post, my mom and Josh showed up at Amy's place. I wasn't surprised. I told my mom I didn't want to see Josh and that they should leave, but she begged me to hear her out. She was very emotional, clearly having been crying, and even Josh looked rough. Feeling bad for them, I decided to hear them out once. First, let me clarify that Josh was not lying about Peter picking out the gift. He showed me text between them. Although there was no direct text about finding a gift, there were messages from Peter saying he found the perfect item and a picture of the clock. It looked like an ordinary clock. Just like when I first got it. Josh had told him to order it and send the invoice to the office. The conversation was basic and nothing seemed suspicious. Reflecting on my interactions with Peter, nothing major stood out. He had just been a little creepy, like catching him looking at me, but I never thought much of it. I told Mom and Josh about this, and they were furious. Josh kept apologizing, saying he failed me and put me in danger and that he would never forgive himself. By then, I knew it wasn't his fault and I wasn't angry at him anymore. I agreed to go back home with them. I can't believe I almost ruined their marriage over this. It's gross to think that some random creep was trying to spy on me and the thought of him seeing me gives me chills. This whole situation is a nightmare. We decided to go to the police. We have enough proof to ensure Josh isn't caught up in the investigation, and he's willing to do anything to get me justice. We're going to the police tomorrow morning. The clock is still in the trash because we don't want to alert Peter if he's still watching. I'm nervous, but at least I have support. I hope they catch him and teach him a lesson. I'll try to post an update. Some of you suggested not trusting Josh, thinking he might be in on it with Peter and now trying to shift the blame. I understand your concerns, but I trust him. Peter has been a creep for as long as I've known him. Even if Josh were capable of such a thing, why would he involve Peter, someone he's only worked with for a few months? I checked the texts on Josh's phone and the timing between messages. It didn't look like any were deleted, and Josh showed me the transfer of money to Peter's account for the clock. He had no way of knowing where the clock was bought from. All of this makes me feel like I can trust Josh. I'd rather give him the benefit of the doubt over Peter. Sure, Josh should have been more careful and picked out the gift himself, but that doesn't make him a criminal. Peter wouldn't take the fall for Josh because there's enough proof to get him in trouble. If Josh was involved, the investigation will reveal the truth. Regarding how Peter knew I would like that kind of clock, Josh mentioned that he told Peter to look for something pink and preferably with strawberries. It's not a hard guess for anyone who knows me. I love pink and have a lot of strawberry-themed things. It's just part of my personality. But instead of focusing on that, we should be more concerned that these products even exist. Many of you have asked me to name the site where the clock was bought, but I don't want to cause trouble. However, you can easily find it if you search for hidden cam clocks online. Amy and I found it pretty quickly that night. Update 2. We called the cops on Peter and he got arrested. Thank you to everyone who offered advice and support on my previous post. After reading your comments and discussing it with my mom and Josh, I realized I couldn't just let this go. I felt shaken and scared, but I knew I needed to act to protect myself and possibly others. I talked with Amy and realized he might be doing this to other girls. Maybe even minors, which made me more determined to stop him. After having breakfast and gathering my thoughts, I decided to call the police. My mom and Josh stayed with me for emotional support. I explained everything to the dispatcher, the hidden camera, the suspicious clock, and my confrontation with my mom. They took it seriously and sent 2 officers to our house to take my statement. The officer was very understanding and professional. I was nervous about how it would go, but the officer just asked me to describe the clock in detail and any other suspicious items. He asked about my interactions with Peter, and I told him everything I could remember, though there wasn't much. I also mentioned the website where Amy and I found similar spy devices. The officer assured me they would investigate thoroughly. We shared the text exchanges between Josh and Peter, showing that Josh asked Peter to pick out the gift. The officer said they needed Josh to go with them for questioning. Josh agreed immediately, reassuring us that there was no need to worry and that he would be back soon. After taking my statement, the officer asked if I felt safe staying at home and if I had any friends or family I could stay with. I told him I trusted my mom and Josh and felt all right. He told me to contact them if I felt unsafe. They also needed to search our house for other possible hidden cameras or suspicious items. The police conducted a thorough search, particularly in my room, but found nothing besides the clock and some stuffed animals I had thrown away. Peter claimed that none of the other items were bought by him, and my mom confirmed that most were bought by her. The police went through them but found nothing suspicious. They didn't find anything else in the house, which visibly relieved my mom when the police confirmed there were no other objects of concern. Josh left with the cops and came back after a few hours. When I asked what happened, he said it was all routine. They asked if he wanted a lawyer, which he declined, and mentioned he might be called in again. The cops also wanted my mom to come in for standard questioning the next day and needed me to come in too for paperwork and other details. Peter was arrested at his home and is now under investigation for invasion of privacy and related crimes. I don't know much about the ongoing investigation, but I hope he confesses or they gather enough evidence to convict him and prove Josh wasn't involved. It has been an exhausting day, and I just want all of this to be over soon. My mom and Josh have been very supportive, giving me space to process everything. We've also hired a lawyer, whom I'll meet tomorrow. I'll try to provide an update, but it might take a while as I need time to process everything and wait for more definite developments. Update 3. It has been 4 months since my last update. I've been really busy, so I apologize for the delay. First, Peter was found guilty, and we pressed charges against him. He didn't put up a fight and admitted to buying the camera clock without Josh's knowledge to spy on me. The only silver lining is that we found no evidence of him doing anything similar in the past. Since I was a minor when Peter first started working for Josh, he didn't bother to delete his search history. The police found the site with surveillance devices on his computer. More disturbingly, they also discovered that he followed me on almost all my social media using fake IDs. I had no idea about this, and it really creeped me out. He admitted that he had a crush on me when he first saw me, which is extremely creepy because he was an adult, and I was only 17 at the time. The police didn't find any evidence of him doing anything except following me on social media while I was still a minor. He said he knew he couldn't approach me directly, so when Josh asked him to pick out a present, he came up with this disgusting plan. I don't even want to think about what would have happened if I had not noticed the camera that night. Since he had no prior convictions or criminal charges against him, this was considered a misdemeanor rather than a felony. Despite our efforts to charge him with a felony, he only spent a few days in jail before being bailed out. I am quite disappointed with how things turned out, But at least his actions are permanently on his record. That's all I can tell myself. Over the past few months I've been focusing on school and getting into college. I am also going to therapy to deal with the trauma of what happened. I am grateful to have my mom, Amy, and Josh supporting me through all of this. I really hate my stepmother, and I don't know how to tell my dad about it without causing a big issue. I'm feeling very stuck right now. Hey, this might be a long one. I'm sorry. It is too long. I didn't read at the bottom. I really don't know what to do about my situation and I don't have anyone close to give me advice, so I thought here I can maybe get some advice. I have an amazing dad who raised me since my mom passed away when I was 5 years old. He is my friend, my supporter, and someone who I want to be like when I grow up. When my dad first introduced my stepmom to me I was 10 years old, and she was very nice to me and he looked so happy that we met and hoped we could get along. They got married when I was 13 and I was so happy that my dad and I had a new member in our family. I thought me and stepmother were getting along until I think a few months after their honeymoon she told me one morning that we just need to pretend to like each around my dad, but when he is not here that I shouldn't bother her. Honestly, this shattered me, but I agreed cause I didn't know what else to do. After that day, whenever it was just me and stepmother, she would say things to get to me, and I would just not say anything. I'm introverted and don't like confrontation, so I just took it and thought over time she would get over it, but it got worse. She would talk about my height and weight and say I was a funny-looking version of my dad. I hoped my dad would notice, but he didn't. He actually thinks me and stepmother are so close and she understands me. He looks so happy with her that maybe it's worth not saying anything and giving it time. This year my stepmother has started picking on me around my dad and he has either joined in or ignored it. I have voiced that what she says makes me uncomfortable and hurts, but my dad says she is teasing and doesn't mean it to hurt me. Well, right now, I'm at my ends and I'm scared, I'm angry, frustrated at my stepmother and my dad. Dad was away for work and it was just me and stepmother at home. She had a party at home with a couple of her friends. I helped set the house up and cook dinner cause dad asked me to help out, which was fine. After they ate and just hung out, they were hanging out on the porch when I heard stepmother and her friends talking very loudly outside my window while I was in my room. Stepmother friends talked about how lucky stepmother was to have a nice husband and a house. When they mentioned how nice it was that I cooked for them, stepmother told them that I was annoying and weird and she hated me and living with me and couldn't wait till I was 18 to kick me out. I was shocked that she hated me that much, but I didn't know why. TBH. I thought we were tolerating each other, but to hate me I must have done something, but I can't think of what I did. I've been kinda down since that day, which was 2 weeks ago, and I thought I was past the initial feelings, but at rugby training today I bursted into tears and my coach sent me home, so I drove to a beach and cried. I feel so much I honestly can't describe my emotions. I eventually fell asleep in my car. Now I'm here hoping I can get advice on how to talk to my dad about it, cause I'm scared about how he will react. I don't want my dad to be sad cause he does so much for me, but I'm not strong like him. I'm really struggling. My question is, how can I approach this conversation with my dad about my stepmother hating me? Or should I tell him at all? Too long. Didn't read. I heard my stepmother tell her friends she hates me, and I want to tell my dad about it but don't know how. Edit. Someone questioned my dad's age, and I'm sorry. But it was supposed to be 42, but I can't change it. Sorry. Thank you everyone that provided advice and kind words. It means a lot to me. I have read every comment and have an idea on how to approach this situation. I'm honestly terrified of the outcome being negative, but the encouragement and support are making this a bit easier to deal with. I am going to talk to my dad on Sunday and show him this post. I hope it goes well and I hope all of you stay safe and take care. Edit 2. I'm not sure what I am able to do what I planned, cause Amy just took my car keys away and she wants my phone, but I won't give it to her, so she is waiting for my dad to take it off me because apparently I'm doing drugs, but I told her I'm not. I've been at the beach. I'm not sure, but I just want it to stop cause I can't handle it. I'm sorry. Update 1. Okay, so my post was locked, but hopefully it's okay now. I've posted the link and tried my best with spacing. I'm on mobile. If I can't post it, I give up. For all the support and advice received, I really appreciate and wholeheartedly so grateful for all who DM me to see how I was. Thank you. This will be long because a lot has happened, but many things are still not resolved. Trigger warning. I will mention self-harm, so please, if it might trigger you, please don't read further. I wish I was able to say I followed the advice that was provided, and now everything is better, but some things in life don't play the way we want it to, and we can either let it destroy us, or make us better. After writing my edit where my stepmother was taking my things away and assuming I was on drugs, I started recording on my phone and she said a lot through the door, many things about my mom and me, and just plain hateful words that I don't want to repeat on here. I fell asleep while I was barricading the door with my body when my dad demanded that I open the door. At this point, I don't remember much of what happened, but my stepmother told me I had to leave the house, and my dad agreed. I didn't know who to call, but I decided to call my coach and he picked me up, and I was a crying mess. He didn't ask any questions but just told me that I was safe and if I needed to talk he was here for me. I stayed over one night when Dad picked me up. Stepmother was not at home when we got there. Dad told me we needed to talk. We had breakfast and my dad spoke to me about many things my stepmother told him, and I couldn't believe all the lies she told him. It was a long talk, but in summary it was my use of drugs and alcohol. How I disrespect her in our home. I don't do my responsibilities like chores at home. I'm nasty to her when Dad is not around. He asked me why I was acting like this, and if I had a problem with my stepmother I should have spoken to him. I let him talk, and when he was crying and asked if I had anything to say, I was so lost for words. I knew whatever I said my dad was on my stepmother's side. So I told him I wanted him to watch the recording of the incident that I can send through as an email attachment and the link to my Reddit post, and then we can talk more. I also said I didn't want to be here when he was reading and watching, so I'll go for a drive and he can text me when he's done and ready to talk. He was hesitant at first, but I told him it was important to me, so he agreed, and I left in my car to the beach and sent the email with the video attached and the link to my Reddit post. I don't know how long I waited, but many thoughts were going through my head. I was missing my mom so much. And what if my dad still sided with my stepmother? What can I do now? I fell asleep at the beach spot and was woken up by a police officer knocking on my car door and asking for my name. After confirming my name, he advised me to get out my car and to hand over my keys to him and to follow him to his car. He handcuffed me and assured me that I wasn't in trouble. But this was a welfare check cause someone made a call that I was possibly suicidal. I didn't talk after he told me that, and all I remember was just crying. He made me sit in the back of the police car until the ambulance came and they took me to the hospital. I was asked many questions and was evaluated and was told I was depressed and may have extreme anxiety. The physician did say I might have other things but will require further testing and some sessions with a psychiatrist. My dad came and visited me while in hospital, and when I saw him he looked really tired. When he spoke it sounded like he was crying, and he told me he called the police on me because the video recording I did, he heard everything my stepmother said, but he also saw cuts on my thighs and was scared, and thought the worst. Honestly, I never watched the video, so I didn't know my thighs were visible. After our cry we spoke about a few things. I told my dad that I don't feel comfortable living with stepmother after everything she said and done to me over the years, and I'm not sure I can handle being around her cause I don't trust her. We spoke about arrangements and knowing my dad still loves my stepmother and I didn't want him to choose between us. I told him that I could talk to Coach if I could stay with him, and after calling him he agreed. I've also been admitted to an agency that will support me cause I am mentally unwell. I have been to one session and waiting on another evaluation to be done on me and some testings with my general practitioner so they can diagnose me. I'm currently staying with my rugby coach who has been an amazing pillar. He has set out some house rules but I respect the fella and don't mind following them. My coach even set a date next week for me and Dad to catch up on. My coach is an awesome dude. I thought of him as just a coach who just wanted our rugby team to win, but when he allowed me to stay over, he showed so much care for me, and I saw a side to him and understand how much he cares for my team. He has a lovely wife, but I'm kinda anxious whenever it's just me and her at their house. That's it right now. My dad lives at home with my stepmother and is trying to sort that out. I have many appointments to get the help I need and a lot of schoolwork to catch up on and rugby training to attend. I've taken a leave of absence from my Macca's job. I'm gonna miss going to the beach for a while, but I understand that it's not a forever thing, so I hope that the next time I go there I'm not crying my eyes out. I'm kinda working on being okay if my dad and stepmother, after those of you who shared your similar experiences, someday I'll be okay. Thank you to all who advised me and encouraged me. Those who reached out through direct message. Thank you for the kind words and reaching out. I'm not sure if I'll update again, but maybe I'll let you know if something happens in the future. Take care everyone, also be kind to one another and most of all be kind to yourself, cause you deserve it. Too long. Didn't read. I showed my dad my Reddit post and recording of my stepmother being verbally abusive, and now I'm staying at my coach's house trying to sort out my mental health update too. Hope everyone has been doing well. I wasn't going to update at all, but many who reached out shared their stories and kind words. It truly helped me. I wish I was able to reply, but so many things were happening and I'm sorry. This will be a long one, but it's because this will be the last time, I hope. In my last post my coach sorted out time for me and my dad to catch up weekly. I've met up with my dad twice and this is how it went. First, catch up at the beach. We spoke and I told him a lot about what happened between me and his wife. I mentioned how she would treated me when he wasn't there, what she spoke to me after they got married and how she was awful to live with. I told him how I dealt with it for his sake cause I wanted him to be happy. I mentioned to him that I spoke with the coach about staying there until I go to university, and then I'll move away cause I cannot live with his wife anymore cause I'm not sure what I'll do. I'm never gonna try and get along with her anymore. He listened and was crying and asked if I would ever get over this. I told him no and I never wanted to see his wife and walked off cause I was pissed off at what he said and drove back to the coach's house. He messaged me later. I acted like a kid, and I responded, cause I am a kid. Second catch-up dinner at the coach's house. Second catch-up, my coach invited my dad to have dinner and hang with me. My coach has a pool table in his man cave and a pool. I was excited to hang and catch up with my dad even after our last meetup cause I was feeling a bit better. But at the same time I was feeling anxious about the meetup like I had a bad gut feeling. But I ignored it. Dinner went great, and me, dad and coach had fun playing pool. Later on that night the coach gave us space to talk. Dad talked about my mom and me as a kid. Just things he would tell me when I was a kid, and it was just me and him. It was fun, and I really enjoyed our time together. When it was time to go home I offered to drop him off since he drank, but he said his wife was here to pick him up so I hugged him and he went. I kinda stayed in the garage and waited for her to leave so I could walk in the house, but I heard her say, "How's the little shit?" And I bolted out the door and told her to fuck off. Boy was I not ready for the slap my dad gave me, but all I remember was swinging a punch at him and knocking him down and my coach pulling me off my dad. My coach told my dad and his wife to leave. After they left I told my coach I never wanted to see him again and texted my dad we were done. It doesn't end there. Last week I planned to not go to school on Friday and go for a drive up the line with a few teammates to just get away from everything. They ended up bailing, so I went by myself. I ended up driving to a lake and parking up and just chilling for the school day and just driving back home later on. When I got home at my coach's house I saw my dad's car parked in the driveway and thought I would have to square up with my dad. When I parked up my dad ran out the house and looked like shit. He looked like he cried for days and he started hitting my car screaming to get out the car and tell him where I was the whole day. I thought he was mad that I wagged school so he ripped the door open and hugged me so hard and cried. I had no idea what was happening or what he was saying, but all I could understand was, "I'm sorry, and I love you." After what felt like forever he kinda calmed me down and I asked him why he was here. And then he told me there was an accident with a kid getting hit by a train. And it clicked, my dad thought it was me. He said when he heard the news he called the school and they said I was a no-show and called everyone he could think of. My mates said I went for a drive somewhere but didn't know where, and my dad said he lost it. He calmed down eventually and said he would divorce his wife if I wanted him to. But I told him, he needed to choose that for himself. 'Cause the reason I stayed quiet was to make him happy. If he is unhappy to make a choice for himself. 'Cause I don't want to be the reason he is unhappy, and that now I have to look after myself, and that is getting away from her, and he cried and just said, "More sorries." He ended up sleeping over in the same room as me that night and the night after, 'cause I think he was scared, and just trying to deal. I was okay with it and coach allowed it. He left after the weekend to sort himself out back at his home. I told him that where I am is good for me, and to not worry, and that I'll turn off Do Not Disturb on my phone so I could see texts. That's pretty much it really. I don't know what my dad is going to decide to do with his wife, but I am definitely not ever going to associate with her. Ever in the foreseeable future. I love my dad too much to stop seeing him, but he knows my boundaries since I've set them out clear as day, and he knows as much as I love him. I will cut him off if I feel like it's not for me. I'm moving past what happened between me and my dad's wife for me cause I'm tired of letting her beat me in my mind, so I just gotta work on myself. I'm currently happy staying with my coach and his wife. They have been amazing and have shown me so much love. They have awesome kids who I have met and they have invited me to their family Christmas. I feel bad that I feel anxious when I'm around the coach's wife, but I'm working on it with my therapist and I have a good support system. I know I want to go to university but not sure if I want to study commerce or law, but I know I am on track with my studies. I just can't afford to skip school anymore. Thank you to everyone who sent messages of support and reached out to share your experiences. Y'all gave me the strength to believe I could get out of this mess and be okay. And if you ever feel down, that there is help out there for you no matter where you are in life. I'm glad I shared on Reddit cause I've learned so much about me and many things I won't forget and teach to my kids. Now I gotta go school. Take care and cheers. OP posted in Mom for a Minute on Sept 27/22 about turning 18. Can't repost from this sub. I hate that my current reality is that I don't have people I can rely on right now in my life. I am trying to do the best to survive and better my current situation. I've had so much happen to me this year and I feel like I can't afford to take time for myself, to catch a break, Or else I'll lose what I currently have, which is not much. I know I'm young and have so much to look forward to, but it's hard. Like so hard to want to carry on when so much shit is going wrong. I'm trying to find a place to stay even in a flatmate situation to be more independent, but I can barely afford anything. My job offered me a better paying position at the expense of a full-time job, and even though I would love more money, that means I will have to give up my dream to go university. I know many people have had worse situations, and honestly, I don't know how they found the will and help they got. It really feels like the world just hates me, and I know I'm feeling sorry for myself, but I honestly giving up hope. What can I get the family I'm staying with for Christmas? I, 18 m, feel indifferent about catching up with my dad, 42 male. I, 18 male, have a strained relationship with my dad, 42 male. A lot has happened this year between us and it really ruined our relationship. He was my best friend, would be there for my rugby matches and push me to do my best. Earlier this year I had a fallout with my stepmom and my dad, which caused me to move out of my home and in with my coach, 37 mem, who I call uncle. I have been here ever since. We did try to mend our relationship, but harsh words were exchanged and I stopped reaching out and focused on passing my exams. I have worked hard on myself by working at my job and helping out at the place I'm staying. I have made some sort of peace about my situation and focused on my future. Now my dad reached out last night to meet up with him to hang, and we planned it for next year on the 4th of Jan. I agreed, and that was that. My uncle talked to me about what me and my dad spoke about. He was kinda worried about my feelings about meeting my dad because of my feelings towards the day. I explained the best I could, is that I just feel indifferent about my dad right now. I am not excited or scared about this meeting, I just see it as a date I'll be seeing him and that's it. Whether we meet up or not, I'm not bothered by it at all. My uncle and his wife care a lot and have done so much for me, so I care about what they say. They think I should have a reason to meet up with him since I haven't spoken to him in a while and worried I could get hurt. Should I have a different mindset towards catching up with my dad? Too long, didn't read. Dad planned to catch up next year for me and him. We had a fallout, so my uncle thinks that I should be feeling something, but I feel indifferent. A commenter asks how it went. Okay, this reply took a while because I wasn't ready to share, but I'm okay for now. My dad turned up with stepmother and told me that they were having a kid. I congratulated them and we spent time talking about my future, and dad telling me he can pay for my university studies as long as I keep my grades up. We spoke about a lot and then we said our goodbyes, and I left. I wasn't able to drive home because I started crying and had to call my uncle to come pick me up. It's been a few weeks since the meeting and now I'm not sure about my feelings about everything, but focusing on getting ready for uni, so I'm working a lot more. My uncle and I are planning to go check out his other house that was affected by floods, so that's something to look forward to because I need a change of scenery. Thanks for checking on me, it means a lot. You'll do well, OP. Go out there and be successful for yourself. Your uncle and wife are really a gem. That's a couple you need to return the favor or love one day. So have you decided what major you will do in uni? OP. Most definitely. They are honestly the best support I have, and I am forever grateful to them both for sharing their home, family and love. Sometimes I wonder why they do it, and they always remind me it's because they care and love me, which means a lot. For uni I am going for a bachelor's in commerce, majoring in commercial law and accounting. Very excited about it and looking forward to it. It will take some years, but that's okay for me right now. The father is not leaving the stepmom and OP is working to move forward. I'm flaring this concluded. My parents tried to screw over my dying stepmother, blew up all of our lives instead. My 17 female stepmother Jane is a wonderful, wonderful woman. She and my father got married when I was 4, and she's been a rock in my life ever since. My mother was always my primary caregiver, but up until that point her relationship with my father was acrimonious and I basically never saw him. Jane was the reason they developed a stable co-parenting relationship. She encouraged everyone to have a good relationship with each other and was always there to support me and my mom when things got rough. Jane was always a really hard worker. When she met my dad, he was living out of a hotel and my mother was doing everything in her power to keep me away from him because she was petty and angry that their relationship didn't work out. Meanwhile, Jane had a great job, a nice house, helped my dad get back on his feet, negotiated a visitation schedule with my mom, who hated her for a long time, and made sure my dad sent us money every week because neither one of them could afford an attorney to negotiate child support payments. Jane had no reason to do any of these things, but as I got older she made it clear that she loved me as much as she loved my half-brothers who were born a few years later. I even have my own room in her house because at the time we lived with my grandparents. Various boyfriends of my mom and Jane felt that I needed a more stable environment than that. She's like the opposite of the evil stepmom. When I was 15, Jane won a big lawsuit against an airline company and got awarded upwards of $1 million. She used the money to build sizable trust funds for me and my brothers so that we would be taken care of later in life. Despite having a lot more money, she still wanted to live a fairly modest life, so she paid off the house she has and has been living there ever since with my dad. Sure, she bought a new car and they went on a few nice vacations, but she didn't blow all her money on stupid things, which I respected. About a year ago, things started getting really weird. Whenever I saw Jane, she seemed to look sicker and sicker, but no one would tell me or my brothers why, even though I knew they knew. All we knew is that she was at the hospital a lot. Around the same time, my mom has been coming around my dad a lot more and acting really strange. Basically like she was trying to romance him. Whenever Jane was in the hospital, my mother would insist on spending the night at their house and playing mom to my brothers, which was so weird to me because she never liked them or Jane. She'd be the perfect little housewife, and my mom is not like that at all. It was super fake. Worst of all, my dad started falling for it. I'm not stupid. I'm pretty sure they were sleeping together. I tried to shield my brothers from it, but they're not dumb either. I tried talking to my dad too, but he insisted it wasn't like that. Then a few weeks ago, my mom started talking about all the places she'd like to visit, how she wanted a new car and was looking to invest. Which is weird because my mom has been a bartender her whole life and has lived paycheck to paycheck since before I was born. She was acting like she was about to get a lot of money, which started to make me really suspicious. Between Jane being sick and my mom acting all nouveau riche, I had a lot of questions. Finally, I decided to visit Jane in the hospital and ask her about my trust fund. I found out that if anything happened to her, that my dad would inherit all the money, including full control of the trusts for me and my brothers. She asked me why I was so interested in the trust fund, so I told her what's going on with my parents, and how my mom has been acting with my dad. I didn't want to, but after everything she did for me, she deserved the truth. It really hurt me to break her heart like that, especially once I found out that she was basically in hospice at this point, because of irreversible kidney failure. She's only got a few more months. We both cried so much. Then, 2 days ago, everything came to a head. My mom stormed in furious and started arguing with my dad. Apparently Jane met with her lawyer and changed the trust so that my dad would get nothing and all of the trusts would be controlled by my stepaunt. She demanded to know how Jane found out about their relationship, and I came out and told them that I told Jane everything. I told them that if they wanted to play stupid games they would win stupid prizes, and that I wasn't going to let them screw Jane over after all the help she gave my family when she didn't have to. My mom slapped me and my dad just looked so defeated. Then my mom told my dad that she didn't really love him, that she was just pretending to so he would marry her and she could get all of the money. The worst part about it is that my brothers witnessed the whole thing, and now on top of their mom dying they have to deal with a cheating dad and his vindictive ex. Our whole family is in ruins and I feel like it's my fault even though I know it's not. Yesterday I visited Jane again and told her about the fallout. She apologized and said that she had to dissolve my trust fund to make sure my mother didn't get a hold of the money, but that as her oldest, I will inherit the house property after she is gone, and that's worth more than the other 2 trust funds combined. My father won't get anything because she's going to divorce him before she dies, and honestly, I'm happy for her. She made me promise to take care of my brothers and told me that once I turn 18 this summer I can kick my dad out of the house if I want to. And I fully plan to do that, BTW. I haven't talked to my dad since and I can't even look at my mom. I can't believe they would conspire to do this to Jane after all this time. Just proof that they deserve each other, and I'm embarrassed that they're my parents. Once I turn 18 I'm going to cut my dad out as much as I can and cut my mom out completely. I hope she rots. Meanwhile I'm going to try and be at the hospital as much as I can until Jane passes away. Anyways, I just needed to vent. I'm really messed up about the whole thing and I feel super betrayed, although I can't even begin to imagine how Jane feels. I'm gonna be so effed up when she dies. I can't even think about that right now. But at least she's not surrounded by people who just want to bring her down. Thanks for reading. Edit. Some people are asking a lot of the same stuff, so I'll just clarify here. My brothers. My plan is to use some of the estate money to fight for guardianship for my twin brothers so that they can live in the house while I kick my dad out. If I can't get guardianship then I will have to let my dad stay in the house. However, once I turn 18 I will technically be an adult, so even if my dad leaves I'm still legally able to be responsible for them. The only thing I won't be able to do is stop him from taking them if he leaves. But they will be 18 in 6 years, so even if they do have to leave they will always be able to come back whenever they want. In a perfect world my dad would just leave and let my brothers stay with me, which I'm sure my bio mom would be very supportive of because right now she hates all of us and I doubt that will change anytime soon. The trust, from what I understand, My brothers will inherit 1/3 each of the estate, and the remaining 1/3 will be used to keep the house running until they turn 18. After that it will be up to me if I want to keep the house or sell it. At that point my brothers will still have money left in the trust so they can branch out or do whatever they want, otherwise I will not sell the house and just pass it on to them or keep it and maintain it myself, and they can just stay with me as long as they need to. Edit to the edit. So I just spoke to Jane and she told me that the reason she dissolved the trust is because originally it was going to be split 3x between us kids, and my dad would inherit the house. She dissolved my third and switched it over to make it to take care of the house maintenance, and instead put the house in my name so my dad wouldn't get it. Plus by doing that at least financially I would be getting a much bigger share. The house is worth about 1.5x the amount of my brother's trusts. I just wouldn't be able to do anything with it until my brothers are 18, which I'm totally cool with. Sorry if I don't have a better answer, but I'm just trying to translate what she told me. My parents. The big fight happened on Sunday and I haven't spoken to either of my parents since. I think they're both at my mom's place right now, but that's fine with us because we're all still mad at them so they can stay gone for all we care. I know technically that's not legal to just leave us alone, but I've been taking care of my brothers for over a year. I can handle a few days while he gets his shit together. Screw both of them. Hope that clears some stuff up. Too long, didn't read. My bio parents tried to screw my terminally ill stepmother out of trust fund money, but she caught on, and now no one on my side of the family gets anything. Additional information from OP on her parents, stepmom's health, trust funds. OP answer. Why isn't Jane on dialysis? I don't remember the exact details, but Jane has a genetic condition where she gets cysts on her kidney. She already had a transplant a few years ago, but now she developed problems with her arteries or something in her legs, so she doesn't qualify for dialysis. She could get another transplant but she doesn't want to because the last time was so traumatic. Rejections, etc. So she decided to just let herself go onto maintenance medications to prolong her death until she gets her affairs in order. She has a few other health problems that make the typical treatments really dangerous, and according to her she'd rather die surrounded by loved ones than on an operating table. Dissolving the trust fund. Jane told me she didn't technically have to do it, but she didn't trust my bio parents not to do something shady and get a hold of the money before I turn 18. Even if my aunt controlled the fund, my dad would still be able to collect if something happened to Jane before I turned 18. Her lawyer suggested it's better safe than sorry and I agreed that it was the best option. I'm not an expert though, I don't know the details. How my mom knew. Like I said before, I'm pretty sure Jane told my dad, who then told my mom, and that's how the argument started. I can't think of any other way and I didn't really care enough to ask. Jane's thoughts on my mom. She didn't know my mom was doing all of that. My mom has her own place and would only come over whenever Jane was in the hospital for a few days at a time. I've been living with my dad for a little over a year, so he probably told Jane that my mom was there to spend time with me, if he told her at all. Besides, she didn't move in until a few months ago, which I guess is when they started hatching their plan. Jane never outright banned my mom from visiting, so there really wasn't anything she could do. Hope that helps. Edit for the last part. The remainder of the money belonging to the estate that hasn't been put into trust for my brothers is going to be used to maintain the house, utilities, taxes, etc., until my brothers are 18, and then I can either choose to sell the house or keep it and maintain it myself if I'm able to. I plan to go to school in that time and get a better job with the goal of keeping the house. But if I can't, then I have the option to sell it. Not that I will, but that's how it was explained to me. OP on her stepmom and their relationship provides thoughts on her bio mom. OP answer. Honestly, it's because she's more of a real mom than my actual mom. My bio mom is kind of ambiguous about my existence, but Jane was always extra involved, sending me to sports teams and paying for dance classes and just showing interest in my hobbies as I got older. Plus, as the only girl, I think we bonded on a level she can't with my brothers, so she always made sure to let me know I was on equal terms with them. When I was younger, we would watch movies and have girl time where it was just us one, and those are some of my best memories with her. Jane is also really mature, and someone I want to be like when I get older, whereas it feels like my mom is a teenager in an adult's body. She was constantly picking fights with my dad about dumb things, and Jane was always there to smooth things over and keep my best interest at heart over her own feelings. I know my mom made Jane's life really difficult for a long time, but Jane never complained or said anything to me about it, whereas my mom constantly complained about Jane. As I got older, I just always felt more at peace when I was around Jane than when I was around my mom. If you want your stepkids to love you, just be there for them and treat them like your own. Ignore whatever drama you have with your husband's ex and just love your kids. Trust me, if you really care about them, they will know. Relevant comments. Commenter. My only advice is make sure you work with a lawyer once she passes so you get your inheritance and your parents can't try to intervene, and then you keep your promise to use that money for you and your brother's welfare. OP answer. Oh, absolutely. Jane already gave me the lawyer's info, and between him and my step-aunt, I'm sure I will be able to do what I need to do for them. I don't even care about the money. Most people don't have trust funds and turn out just fine. I'm actually more glad that she gave me the house because you can be damn sure it's going to be a safe space for my brothers whether I end up getting custody of them or not. My brothers are basically Jane's legacy, so my goal is to give them the life and guidance that I got from her, and that they won't get because she'll be gone. OP on the relationship between her father and her stepmom before they got exposed. OP answer. Honestly, it hurts a lot because before Jane got sick, they seemed to have the perfect relationship. Until my birth giver, I like that, came in and fucked everything up with her toxic personality. Honestly, in a perfect world my mom will end up broke and alone and in a shitty nursing home with bed sores. And when she calls me and begs me for a relationship, because she needs the attention, it'll feel so good to hang up on her over and over again. OP on Jane, stepmom's health and if Jane is mentally okay on the whole situation. OP answer. I think so. Apparently it's a genetic disease, so she always knew she was going to get sick. She just didn't know when. So mentally I think she was prepared for it. I just hope that she can find peace knowing the truth and knowing that I'll be there to make sure her sons don't grow up all fucked up. OP on her brothers getting therapy to deal with their stepmom's health and her imminent death. OP answer. Yeah. I've already sat them down and talked to them about what's going on. They seem to understand, but they're understandably really sad about the whole thing. I told them that when they go to school they should ask about a grief counselor, and I'm trying to get their health insurance info from Jane so I can find them a therapist for kids. As much as all of this sucks, I think it's brought the three of us a lot closer together. Thanks a lot. I really love my brothers and I know it's my job to take care of them properly now that they won't have a mom around. Jane did so much to raise me and my brothers won't have the opportunity, so it's only right that I help them. Since finding all of this out, my plan has always been to have my brothers live with me. I'm already in charge of taking care of them and the house for the most part. The only thing my dad does is help pay the bills. Unfortunately, I won't be able to kick my dad out as long as he's their legal guardian, which is why I'm trying to find some other solution to that. But when that gets resolved, he can live under a bridge for all I care. Update. Please check my profile for my previous post. Hi guys, it's me again. A lot of you asked me for an update on my situation with Jane and my family, so I've come back with a few things that have happened since I initially posted. I will try to organize this in a way that addresses the major points of last time. Jane is still alive and doing surprisingly well considering the circumstances. She's always been a fighter, and although her disease has been progressing, she's keeping a positive attitude with everything that is going on. She says she's grateful that she was able to see everyone's true colors before she passed, so she could go into the next life knowing the truth. We have become so unbelievably close in the past few months, and it's getting harder and harder to know that she's getting close to the end. She doesn't ever talk about it though, and I know it's because she doesn't want to hurt me, but we both know the situation, so we're just making the best of our time. I'm also not being completely transparent about all of the drama at home, but TBH, I don't think she needs to hear all of that. We did end up having that surprise celebration of life that I planned. A lot more people showed up than I thought, but they all got an Airbnb near the hospital where Jane is, and we were able to take her out and spend some time at the lake near the facility. It was super low-key, which I know Jane preferred, and I was even able to get her old college friend to come after I found him on LinkedIn. LOL. We had food and there was music and we played games, and it was overall a really great time, except Jane started crying at the end, but she promised me it was just because she was grateful. My brothers are also doing okay. My aunt, Jane's sister, is currently paying for them to go to therapy, and they've become a lot more open about talking about the situation. They just turned 13, but a lot of the time it feels like I'm talking to actual adults. LOL. They've become really independent lately, in a good way, and aside from me driving them places, I don't really have to do much for them anymore. Their grades aren't super great, but they're not failing, and considering the circumstances it could be a lot worse. They still hang out with friends, and I'm keeping an eye out for depression symptoms and stuff. The situation with my mom is as funny as it is embarrassing. TBH. She spent a few weeks ignoring us, and then she tried to crawl back into my life, basically begging me to let her move in because her lease is about to expire and she has nowhere to go. That convo went about as well as you'd think, and she ended up calling me an ungrateful bitch, and that I couldn't just ignore her because she's my mom. I told her to get out of the house before I call the cops and to go back to my dad, who at that point was only coming home every few days to check on us and grab some clothes. After that she tried coming by a few times, and when I wouldn't open the door she would lose her mind and start yelling through the neighborhood. After 3 instances of this I finally called the cops, but because I'm 17 they told me there's a possibility that I would have to go home with her since technically I'm a minor, and need to be with the custodial parent. I told them no way because I was the only one watching my brother's ATM. That led to a whole thing where after a few hours my dad basically showed up and I was allowed to stay there because there was finally an adult present and I'd basically lived there for over a year. After that the cops firmly told my mom that if she keeps showing up and causing drama, my neighbors confirmed that she'd been there a few times screaming, that they would arrest her for trespassing since technically it was Jane's house and not hers. She left and hasn't tried coming to the house anymore, but for a while she would call me constantly telling me I owed her and all kinds of stuff. She's now blocked on everything and anything she needs to say to me gets filtered through my dad. As for my dad, well, since he's basically required to be here for another 2 months until I turn 18, we've basically just avoided each other. It's not too bad though because I've been heavily relying on guilting him for everything to get my way. For example, he was going to contest the divorce, but I threatened to kick him out when I turn 18 if he does that, so he just signed all the paperwork for a quickie divorce, and is basically doing whatever Jane tells him to do. I don't openly disrespect him or anything, he's still my dad, but I've made it clear that I have no intentions on doing anything he says ever again, and he doesn't fight me on it. Most of the time he's just in his room, and sometimes he'll go back to my mom's, but only for a day or two before they argue and she kicks him out again. Lol. I haven't decided whether or not I'll kick him out yet, and we haven't talked about it either, so I'm kind of playing it by ear. As for me, I'm handling everything as good as I can. I found a new job where I make a little more money, so I've been focusing on saving as much as I can and just being there for my brothers. Between working and school and visiting Jane, I've been so busy I haven't really had time to really stop and think about everything, but I know it'll come. One of my friends has really stepped up and helped me manage everything, and I'm super grateful to him for being there for me and my brothers, so we'll see how that goes. Anyways, I wish I had something more exciting to share, but that's what's happened since my last post. Thanks again for all the support on my last post. Relevant comments. OP on the possibility of her stepmom being poisoned from her parents to get Jane's money. OP answer. Hi there. A few people have mentioned this, and yes, we are absolutely certain she is not being poisoned. It's a genetic disease causing her kidney failure, and we have known about it for a long time, but she shielded us from the worst of it. Hence why her sudden decline in health was such a shock to us. We thought she had more time. My brothers have also been screened for this disease, and thankfully neither of them have it. Edit to add. I'm turning 18 in a few weeks, so I don't need to get emancipated, and my dad has already agreed that my brothers will stay in the house with me, because they have nowhere else to go. OP on Jane making video clips for her brothers. OP answer. Yes. Actually, a few people suggested this in my last post, and we have been doing this for a few weeks now. Jane has a little digital recorder that she's been putting her thoughts down on, and she's also written a few letters to us for major milestones. My brothers do not know about this as we want to surprise them, but that said, they have been coming to the hospital more now that they're in therapy and able to deal with it. I know they do not want to have any regrets, even though it's a difficult situation. Sister-in-law hated me for years, had a tragic miscarriage. Then we welcomed her back, but she told my child she was his real mom. My sister-in-law despised me for years, but after she suffered a tragic miscarriage, we welcomed her back into our lives. Unfortunately, she began telling my child that she was his real mother. David and I have been happily married for 8 years, and we have a 4-year-old son named Tom. Tom is a lively, imaginative kid. Very attached to me, and a bit of a mama's boy. I cherish this bond, knowing that as he grows older, his interests will change, and he might not want to spend as much time with me. David and I make a great team, managing our home, raising Tom, and pursuing our careers seamlessly. This harmony stems from David's respectful and communicative nature, which has fostered a strong partnership between us. However, despite our smooth sailing, there's an ongoing issue with David's sister, Kathy. From the very beginning, Kathy has been difficult to get along with, maintaining a cold attitude towards me. David had warned me early on that while his parents would likely accept me, Kathy would be tough due to her protective nature. He was right. When we first met, Kathy bombarded me with questions about my background, all the while acting unimpressed and condescending. She would also bring up David's exes in our conversations, comparing them to me as if it were normal. During one dinner, she even suggested David join her and her friends on a girls' trip, claiming he needed to clear his head before committing to me. This remark annoyed me, and David noticed, asking her to back off politely. This brings me to a point of contention with my husband. While he does defend me, his affection for Kathy sometimes prevents him from setting firm boundaries. This emboldens her to keep pushing, believing she has his best interests at heart simply because she's the older sister. From that first dinner date, I knew Kathy and I didn't like each other. It stung a bit, but I wasn't about to bend over backward to win her over if she had already made up her mind. Despite this, I always remained polite during our encounters, though she never made it easy. One incident that stands out is David's grandparents' anniversary party. The entire family was invited, and I attended as David's plus one since we'd been dating for a year by then. Throughout the party, I enjoyed chatting with his friendly and easygoing family. The one person who completely ignored me was Kathy. I noticed and tried to stay out of her way. When everyone gathered for a group photo, Kathy loudly pointed me out, demanding I step out of the picture. She suggested David might break up with me and didn't want one of her brother's bimbos in the family photo. I was mortified as everyone around us looked uncomfortable. David tried to argue, but Kathy kept interrupting, saying I was just a random stranger and shouldn't have been at the party. Humiliated, I excused myself to find my car keys, determined not to spend another minute near her. David and his parents followed me, apologizing profusely. His mother tried to persuade me to return, but the moment was ruined. I heard his grandparents scolding Kathy, making me feel even guiltier for spoiling the day. I left immediately, considering breaking up with David, thinking I couldn't handle his sister's behavior. However, David showed up at my place later with flowers and pastries, apologizing sincerely. He told me everyone had reprimanded Kathy for her rudeness, and he had threatened to cut ties with her, which made her cry. David expressed his frustration with his sister's antics and reassured me he didn't want anything to do with her anymore. We had a long talk, and I felt comforted by his support. In the following days, David kept his promise. We stopped seeing Kathy altogether, and he ignored her calls. When she showed up unannounced at his house, he changed the locks and asked his parents to talk to her about respecting his privacy. With his parents' support, Kathy had no choice but to accept that her brother wanted nothing to do with her. We hoped this would make her reconsider her behavior, but it had the opposite effect. Kathy started calling and texting me, leaving threatening messages and blaming me for everything. The breaking point came when Kathy showed up at my workplace one afternoon, demanding to see me. Thankfully, my manager intervened and kicked her out, but the incident left me deeply shaken. I told David that I had no choice but to break up with him to escape his sister's harassment and consider taking legal action against her. David was devastated, pleading with me not to end our relationship and promising he would handle the situation. David then convinced his parents to arrange a meeting with Kathy at their home. During this confrontation, his parents, fully aware of what Kathy had been doing, made it clear they wanted nothing to do with her unless she changed her behavior. They all warned Kathy that her actions were borderline crazy, and if she continued, they would support my decision to take legal action. Miraculously, Kathy finally broke down and admitted she needed help. She confessed to feeling out of control and revealed she had lost her job and had been unemployed for months, worsening her mental state. David's parents took immediate action, admitting her to a psychiatric hospital where she could be monitored. David reiterated that he did not wish to maintain contact with her, which Kathy reluctantly accepted. She sent me an apology text that felt somewhat insincere, but I hoped for her sake that she would heal. When David and I finally married, we chose not to invite Kathy, even though she had been discharged and seemed to be doing better. I wanted nothing to do with her, and everyone respected my decision. Kathy did send flowers to congratulate us, which I appreciated. After we returned from our honeymoon, Kathy announced her engagement. It surprised everyone, as no one knew she had been dating. We were cautiously happy for her until we learned she was marrying a man she met in the psychiatric hospital. This man, James, was schizophrenic and an alcoholic with violent tendencies, according to his doctors. Understandably, David and Kathy's parents were concerned. Kathy planned her wedding for the following month and only invited David, excluding me. While I wasn't surprised and felt relieved not to have to make an excuse, David was offended by the exclusion and chose not to attend. Those who did attend the wedding later told us it was a disaster. Kathy and James were heavily intoxicated during the ceremony and couldn't even properly repeat the vows after the priest. During the reception, James continued drinking until he was blackout drunk, then started ripping open his shirt and pants while everyone watched in horror. Being schizophrenic, James didn't like the attention and suddenly attacked a server, accusing the innocent bystander of looking suspicious and hiding something. His family managed to calm him down and paid off the server to avoid pressing charges. This incident deeply scarred everyone, raising serious concerns about Kathy's safety. If James could attack a stranger, what was to stop him from attacking Kathy? David and his parents tried to talk to Kathy about her husband's disturbing behavior, but she was convinced she could change him. Despite their warnings, Kathy believed James would never harm her. Unfortunately, she was wrong. Over the years, James isolated her, cutting off contact with family and preventing her from seeking help. Though there were instances of police being called due to their violent arguments, Kathy refused to leave him, convinced he was the one for her. 4 years ago, I became pregnant with Tom, and we were all overjoyed. I wanted Kathy to be part of my baby shower, so we sent her an invitation. When we received no reply, David drove to her place to check on her. He discovered that James had cut her off from any communication with us and thrown away the invitation. David confronted James, but Kathy defended her husband, refusing to see his wrongdoing. Frustrated, David left, and we lost contact with her. Even after Tom was born, we did not reach out, and her parents eventually stopped trying to convince her, hoping she would be okay. The past few years with Tom have been peaceful and full of love. David and I have found a wonderful rhythm in our marriage, and Tom keeps us busy with his curiosity. David's parents visit every weekend to babysit while we have our date night, allowing us some time off and giving the grandparents quality time with Tom. Everything was going well until 8 months ago when Kathy showed up at our doorstep, muddy and disheveled, with no shoes on. We immediately let her in, and I fetched her a blanket as she was shivering. We hadn't seen her in years and were at a loss for words. David comforted her, asking if she was okay. Kathy looked numb, staring into space. Eventually, she revealed that she had just miscarried. We listened in shock as she recounted how she had gotten pregnant a month ago, initially believing James would be happy. However, he grew increasingly paranoid, fearing the baby would take her away from him. They fought frequently, and he even threatened to poison her food to cause a miscarriage. That day, she woke up feeling uneasy, and at the doctor's, she found out she had lost the baby. Numb and sick, she couldn't drive home, so she walked, eventually ending up at our house. She must have walked at least 20 blocks barefoot, but she couldn't remember why she had no shoes on. I felt so sorry for her and immediately gave her a hug. At first, she hesitated, but then she hugged me back. We sat there for 5 whole minutes as Kathy cried into my arms. We knew then that this was her way of asking for help. David seemed ready to confront James directly, but I convinced him to call the police and notify their parents, who were better equipped to handle the situation. His parents were incredibly grateful to have their daughter back and assured her of their unwavering support. When the police took her statement, they were as shocked as we were by the abuse Kathy had endured. James was arrested despite his protests and threats, continually denying his involvement in her miscarriage. However, Kathy's toxicology report revealed she had been poisoned, leading to the loss of her baby. In the end, due to James's mental issues and his incompetence to stand trial, the judge sentenced him to an indefinite stay in a psychiatric facility for treatment. Although this was frustrating, we were grateful to have Kathy back safe and sound. By then all my previous animosity towards her had vanished. As a woman, I felt immense sympathy for her and wanted to move past our history to help her heal. Kathy also seemed calmer and no longer hostile towards me. When we felt she was ready, we introduced Tom to her, hoping it would aid her recovery. She grew very close to Tom in a short time, which none of us minded initially. This should have been my first red flag. Over the weeks, she found ways to spend more and more time with my son, often showing up unexpectedly at our house. Staying with her and David's parents made it easy for her to drive over unannounced. She insisted on giving Tom baths and reading his bedtime stories, gestures that initially seemed kind but gradually felt intrusive. Kathy's increasing presence started to feel odd. She visited almost daily, staying longer than necessary, bringing toys and gifts for Tom, and always seeking involvement in his daily routines. She would comment on his clothes or hairstyle, suggesting how Tom would look better, which bothered me. While I appreciated her efforts to bond with Tom, it began to feel like she was undermining me again, this time through my son. My maternal instincts kicked in, and I talked to David. He assured me that I might be overthinking and that his sister was just trying to cope with her pain. He reminded me of her recent loss, making me feel guilty. I decided to let her be, thinking if taking care of Tom made her happy, what was the harm? As days went on, I tried my best to accommodate her constant presence. She started looking after Tom daily while we were at work and even took him to the park in the evenings. Sometimes when I came home, I noticed that my son no longer greeted me with the same enthusiasm. He wouldn't run up to me, and instead, looked at me with curiosity. After Kathy left, I would try to talk to Tom about his day and whether he had any issues with Kathy, but he was less engaged and seemed sad. As his mother, this change in his behavior worried me deeply. However, when I discussed it with my husband, he would gently dismiss my concerns, assuring me that Tom was just growing up and I was overthinking. The nagging feeling persisted, so I confided in a coworker, who suggested installing nanny cams from Amazon in Tom's room and our living room to monitor him. I thought this was a brilliant idea and promptly bought 2 cameras. I didn't inform David about this, not wanting him to dismiss my concerns again. Yesterday, after Tom went to bed, I decided to check the nanny cams. While David watched TV downstairs, I retreated to my study to review the footage, which included audio. Initially, it was just Kathy playing and caring for Tom, appearing very good with children. However, I was shocked when she pulled a book from her purse, one I hadn't seen before. We usually have age-appropriate books for Tom, but this one was different. She read the book to Tom before his nap. As I listened, I realized the story was about adoption and how a mother sometimes gives her child to another mother to care for. Kathy added her own commentary, telling Tom that this was why she had left him in my care years ago because she wasn't ready then. My eyes widened in horror as she continued, claiming that she would always be his real mother and no one could love him more than she did. She kissed his forehead and left him to nap. My hands shook with anger as I realized what she had been telling my son, causing his strange behavior. This poor child must be feeling incredibly confused. I was ready to confront David and demand that Kathy never be allowed in our home again, but I held back. Instead, I decided to take a day off to spend with Tom and understand what Kathy had been telling him. When I informed Kathy that she didn't need to babysit, she reacted anxiously, insisting that she loved spending time with Tom. I firmly told her to back off, wanting a day alone with my child. David asked if I was okay, and I reassured him that everything was fine but that I needed a break. Later, I took Tom to his favorite park, and we spent the day playing, eating pizza, and laughing. I wanted him to feel safe before broaching the conversation about what his aunt had been telling him. He got a bit quiet. I reassured Tom that he wasn't in trouble and that he could talk to me about anything. That's when he opened up. He told me how Kathy had been trying to convince him for weeks that she was his real mother. Though he didn't truly believe it, she also told him that I would eventually leave him because only real mothers love their children. Her insistence made him scared to ask me about it, fearing I might actually kick him out. He said he loved me and didn't want to go live with Kathy. Hearing those words broke my heart. I stared at his tear-streaked face, seeing a small and vulnerable child instead of the joyful and playful boy I knew. I knelt down, gently took his hands, and assured him that everything would be okay. We would get through this together. I hugged him tightly, feeling the weight of his fears and pain. I felt like a failure for not protecting my son from this psycho. I promised him that he had nothing to worry about and that David and I would take care of it. However, my son then told me that David already knew about all this. I asked what he meant and he said, "I asked Daddy, and he knows about this, but he told me not to tell you anything." My blood ran cold as I realized that my husband, despite knowing what his sister was up to, had chosen to protect her instead of our son. He knew everything. I couldn't let my son be around these people anymore. I didn't want him to be confused and frightened about his own mother. I was his mother, and it was my job to protect him from this. I quickly drove home and packed our bags. I told my parents we were coming over and that if David asked, we would say I missed them and wanted to spend time with them. Luckily, my parents are very supportive and immediately said yes. As I write this, I've already explained everything to my parents, and they are as shocked as I am about what Kathy has been telling my son. David did call when he came home to an empty house, but I tried to sound normal, telling him I needed a break from our place and work. He sounded curious, but I assured him I'd stay with my parents for just a few days. We rarely fight, so I guess he didn't think much about it even though my behavior must have seemed strange to him. I am so conflicted right now. I have no idea what to do. How should I confront this situation? Am I the asshole for distancing my son and me from my husband's crazy sister? Update 1. Wow, I woke up to over 600 comments on my post. I can't believe so many people on Reddit have come across my story. I used fake names throughout, so hopefully, none of David's family members will realize it's about him. To those criticizing me for not talking to my husband first, I assure you, I would have if my son hadn't already tried to talk to David. My mother's instinct told me that since my husband knew for weeks about our son's changed behavior and kept gaslighting me, a confrontation with him wouldn't have been productive. I needed to get my son out of the situation immediately, and he is now much safer with my parents. No one can feed him lies here, and that's all that matters. Kathy has been trying to contact me, sending multiple messages insisting she needs to see my son and how much she misses him. I plan to put an end to this at the upcoming family get-together at David's parents' place this weekend. This gathering has been planned for weeks because David's grandparents are visiting, and I thought it would be a nice time to spend together. However, given recent events, I will use this opportunity to speak my truth and ensure Kathy stays away from my son for good. Update 2. I'm back with an update. I finally confronted David as planned during the family get-together. I was so nervous beforehand, but I decided to bring the nanny cam recording as proof. To cut to the chase, I called out Kathy in front of everyone during lunch. She looked shaken and tried to laugh it off as if it wasn't a big deal. Then I showed the nanny cam footage and explained that I had recorded what she told my son. I watched the color drain from her face as I sent the video to the family group chat for everyone to see. Her parents were horrified as they watched her try to convince my son that she was his real mommy. Next, I confronted David and told him how he failed to protect our son. My husband looked really guilty but tried to justify his actions, saying he didn't think much of it and thought it would help his sister cope with her grief. He felt torn between supporting his sister's recovery and telling me about it, ultimately choosing to keep quiet. I told him that because of his actions, I no longer trusted him and couldn't let our son be around him or his family. For the first time in a long while, I saw my husband break down in tears, but I stood firm. I made it clear that I couldn't let my son grow up in a family where his father refused to stand up for him to protect his mentally ill sister. David and Kathy's parents and grandparents apologized to me and assured me they would make sure Kathy stayed away from our son. Kathy looked utterly humiliated but didn't have the decency to apologize. David kept trying to justify his actions, but I ignored him. I left shortly after the confrontation, feeling that my work was done and wanting nothing more to do with any of them. Update 3. I see some of you are confused about my decision, so I wanted to clarify. Yes, I plan on divorcing my husband. I know many of you suggested giving David a second chance since this wasn't entirely his fault, and I agree that he is a good man. However, being a good man doesn't automatically make him a good father. Just because we never had issues doesn't mean he was a good father to Tom. He should have addressed this from the beginning when our son came to him with doubts, instead of spending weeks trying to cover it up and gaslighting me. Both Tom and I can't trust him anymore. I welcomed Kathy back into my life with open arms after what she went through because, as a woman, I felt sorry for her. But in the end, she proved why I never liked her in the first place. I understand that Kathy's abuse was extremely traumatic, but that doesn't mean our son should have to suffer for it. She is an adult with mental issues, and although we thought she had improved, she clearly hadn't. However, what really surprised me was my husband. The fact that he prioritized her mental well-being over our son's shows why he should never be around Tom. He was always such a supportive husband, and I thought I could trust him, but his actions regarding Kathy have shown otherwise. I promise that from now on, I will protect my son no matter what. I am confident I can get full custody of Tom if I expose his family history during the custody battle. I'm frustrated because of my useless husband. Am I the asshole for telling my husband that I see him as a liability and not a partner? Sorry for the long post, it's 2 a.m. and I'm crying and tired and worn out. If I'm rambling, it's because I've held this in for so long, not wanting to burden friends or family with my marital troubles. I 34F have been with my husband, 37M, we'll call him Nathan, for 8 years. Ever since our daughter, 3F, was born, I have been unable to trust Nathan with anything, no matter how small. Background context. When I was 19, after a semi-truck driver fell asleep at the wheel and turned my car into scrap metal with me inside it. I have enough metal holding me together that I light up like a Christmas tree for TSA and physically impaired with good days and bad days. I used a portion of my settlement check to buy a house outright, and have it retrofitted to accommodate my needs as I'll eventually require a wheelchair. I work in software development as it's fun, and nobody cares if I work from bed on bad days. My husband has not worked in 5 years, which has been fine until our daughter was born. Between the settlement money, a paid-off house, and my salary, I enjoyed having him here with me. He contributed by handling most of the domestics. We pay for a weekly cleaner with monthly deep cleaning because it gives us more time together. Ever since our daughter was born, it was like a light switch turned off in his head. For our daughter, he would buy the wrong size diapers. Not fully mixed bottles. Put diapers on backwards. Leave out poop-covered wipes. Forget to latch cabinets. This past week, he has gone to the store 3 times because he keeps coming home with the wrong size socks and shoes for her. I eventually just ordered the right ones on Amazon. For me, he has tried to help me with my weekly pill organizer fill-up and several times has spilled the contents of new medications all over the floor. Then, not seeing that he didn't get all of them off the floor, he has repeatedly brought me grapefruit juice to take my medications with, a huge no. He has repeatedly forgotten that I can't have dairy and puts milk in my coffee. Or cheese on a burger. He has broken so many things of mine from being careless. He shattered my laptop because it slipped out of his hand when he tried to pack it for a trip. Even after I said I would pack my own electronics. We've lost so many spoons and forks to the disposal, He tried to replace the head gasket in my car and over-torqued the engine bolt, which shattered inside the block, and 2 different shops said they couldn't repair it. We ended up getting a new vehicle because a replacement engine would have cost $11,000. A week later, he crashed the new car into the garage door because he thought he'd pressed the brakes, not accelerator. He wanted to do TikTok and streaming as a hobby. I supported him initially, but I quickly noticed a pattern. Anything regarding our daughter or me, he was sloppy and careless. He never whooped his own stuff. He would build entire sets to stream or make videos with, leave the garage and leave his brain in the garage. It came to a head 4 nights ago. He streamed himself building a new set piece. 9 hours straight. Meanwhile I worked. Clocked out early, to pick up our daughter from summer camp, cooked and fed both of us, got her ready for bed. He came out to help put her to bed. I let him know that I needed to get some work done and would be in my office. And I asked him to take the trash out. He says he will. 2 hours later, I left my office and the house felt really warm. He'd taken the trash out, but left our front door partially open. And was back in the garage with his game volume really loud. I panicked since our daughter was able to get out of bed and thankfully she was sound asleep. But she could have easily toddled right out of the house and he wouldn't have noticed. Then I noticed a stovetop burner was on, with a small pot on it with nothing inside. I didn't use the stove for cooking that night. I popped my head into the garage and said, "Hey, I need you for a minute." I informed him of the door situation and he responded, "I thought I locked it." We checked the camera. And no, he did not. I asked about the burner being on and he said he was planning to make ramen and forgot. He pulled the still hot pot off the burner and put it straight into the sink on top of our daughter's favorite plastic plate, which is now ruined. I'll admit I overreacted and screamed, "What are you doing?" He realized what he'd done and pulled the pot off our daughter's plate and straight onto the countertop. I grab it quickly and run it under water to cool it down. I tell him I can't tonight. I can't deal with him. I'm taking my meds and going to sleep. He gets a cup from the cupboard and sets it straight onto the burner that had been on. I hit my limit. I started crying. He kept saying that it was fine, things happen, it's just an accident, he's had a rough day from streaming, he's just tired. Why am I crying? It's just a cup. We can replace it. The anger hit and I said, "It's because I have a liability and not a partner." He said, "What the fuck does that mean?" I screamed that it's because I can't trust him to do anything. That I'm always having to watch him like a child. Always having to bear the costs of his mistakes. That every time I get careless and think I can trust him to be an adult, I'm always the one getting fucked over. I then said, "I can't see you as a partner anymore. You're just another liability in my checkbook." He immediately stormed out of the kitchen and went to bed. I called my mom and told her what happened. She thinks it's just stress and offered to take our daughter for a week so we could figure this out without our daughter seeing it. She says it was an asshole thing to call my husband a liability. In the morning I told my husband that my mom would pick up our daughter from summer camp and offered to watch her for a week. He said okay. And that's the only interaction we've had since. He spends all day in the garage playing games with his friends, making TikToks, and streaming. For food he's been ordering DoorDash and having the person deliver it in the garage. It's been days and he refuses to be in the same room as me. I've tried messaging him to ask if we can talk. Or figure out a solution. But he's just left me to read. If I pop into the garage, he ignores me but apologizes to his friends or viewers for the interruption, and Geek unmutes his mic when the noise stops. Before the blow-up, I've asked if there was something going on. I tried to gently respond every time he screwed up so our daughter didn't associate mistake to anger. I asked him to schedule a doctor to see if something was going wrong medically. He always said I was overreacting, people make mistakes, and didn't see an issue, even when the same mistakes kept happening. When I tried to get him to understand that it was concerning just how expensive his mistakes were getting, he'd wave it off as "it's not like we can't afford it." I love him dearly. I just miss the person he was before we had a child. The one I could trust and rely on. Did I screw this up forever? Was I being too harsh on his mistakes? Am I missing something? Am I the asshole? Relevant comments. OP on if her husband is using her money. OP. Downvoted. We do have a shared account for household expenses and bills, but he is using his own money as far as I can see. When he became a stay-at-home husband, I didn't want him to ever feel like he was financially trapped or abused. Also, the thought of my husband having to ask for money, permission, to buy things for himself, or not being able to buy gifts discreetly felt ick to me. My paychecks get split between the expenses account, $300 each deposited into separate accounts the other can't see, and the rest to savings. To me, it's his money to save or spend how he wants. I read through all the responses and have removed the allocation to his account. I also removed his name as an authorized user on the bills expenses account. Before our daughter was born, this did seem the fairest, because he was managing the household tasks and maintenance. But I understand everyone's frustration at me since the arrangement is no longer fair or equitable. I can't cancel his card because my name isn't on that account at all, but I have put a stop to this Fridays and all future deposits. OP on if her husband contributed to anything before their daughter's birth and afterwards OP. Before our daughter was born, he was contributing and I valued him for it. He cooked most of our meals, did the daily cleaning chores like dishes, wiping counters, and cat litter scooping. We did bi-weekly grocery trips and bulk store runs together, but one-offs during the week he would handle. He also helped me hit the ground running with scrambled eggs and coffee in bed so I could take my heart medication. I never had to run the laundry or consider taking the heavier pain meds to get through folding and hanging everything. He still mostly does these, minus breakfast. Dishes sometimes sit overnight due to his streaming, but I also attribute it to our toddler wanting each part of her meal in a different small bowl and our dishwasher can only fit so many of the IKEA kids' bowls. He does the daily things like dishes, scooping cat litter, wiping counters, getting trash out, cleaning random messes that occur, etc., plus laundry, yard work. We pay for a weekly cleaner so we don't run into the issue of deferred cleaning. We're neglecting the house for a few days. Illness, doctor visits, family visiting, local outings, etc. doesn't ever turn into a, there's too much to catch up on OMG, where do I start, freeze. I've always struggled with that in the past. And the monthly deep cleaner because it's honestly just really nice having a professional come in. Our monthly deep cleaner is also a professional organizer which has been a tremendous help with the transition from infant to toddler organization of clothing and toys. OP on her husband's qualities. OP. He's incredibly creative and we used to have so much fun working on projects together. He's a modern-day MacGyver. Give him a roll of duct tape, 2 pennies, some foam, cardboard and paint, and he can build beautiful set pieces that could be mistaken for props on Broadway. He learned how to make a mini forge from a flower pot and a makeshift lathe. He practiced until he made the ring he proposed with. Complete with my favorite gemstone, blue opal. His smile is infectious and he tells the best of horrible puns and jokes. He took cooking classes to learn how to make my favorite dishes, and made his own note card recipe book. He doesn't hesitate to belt out everything from Aqua to Backstreet Boys, Broadway show tunes, Nightwish, and everything in between. Off-key but as if the rest of the world isn't there. Play a Michael Jackson song and he's on the dance floor by the end of the first note. When I gave birth to our daughter, I didn't have hospital food as my first meal. He'd worked out an arrangement with the owner of my favorite restaurant. No matter what time of day or night, as soon as I went into labor, he would message the restaurant owner who would prepare my usual faves and personally deliver the meal to the hospital. I had no idea until it arrived and the smell hit my nose. I cried so many happy tears into my food. I love frogs. He used to take a photo of every frog he'd find in our yard. He designed and vacuum formed a sign for our house that features both of our favorite animals and says "Welcome home." If he was out, he'd send me photos of, or come home with, cute frog-themed things. On my bad pain days where I mostly rot in bed, he would bring me meals. On a wooden tray he made. It converts from a carry tray to a bed tray. He got the idea from hospital food trays. He helps me get my socks and shoes on when I just can't quite do it myself. He learned how to do a few styles of updos and how to curl and flatten hair to help me feel pretty. On days where I hate the broken body I have, he'll put my hair up and it brightens my day. That's the person I fell in love with. And so deeply missed. Some days he's that person. But more frequently now, he's not. Update. Sorry for not being so responsive. Thank you to everyone who gave feedback and suggestions and all of the messages. It's been a week. Before I get into the update, I'm going to answer some repeated questions. Skip ahead 8 paragraphs for the actual update. Why does my husband not work? He can easily find employment, but we both agreed that the pay was never worth the toxic environment of his field, unless he wanted to start his own business, which he did not. He worked in home repair and renovation. It was gross how his co-workers spoke of and treated women, female customers and co-workers alike. He saw many female co-workers be sexually harassed into quitting. He hated how gross it made him feel when sales and adjusters would take advantage of women. Yes, selling inferior and unnecessary services at a premium is a thing. If he said anything, his hours would get cut until he left. He left one job on the first day because his boss left a screaming voicemail for not selling a refrigerant service to a young black couple who didn't even need refrigerant. Yes, he's got documentation and reported multiple employers to the state labor board. And checked back. Nothing was ever done to our knowledge. He's also tried a factory job in a warehouse since leaving the trades. Both heavily penalized him for needing scheduled time off for my medical needs. There's no worker protection here for any of that until FMLA, unpaid, which takes a year to be eligible for. Yes. It is a privilege to walk away from a paying job with your middle fingers held high. I have done the same many times, but I'm happy where I'm at right now because it's the opposite of toxic. I'm thriving, and our company has a no penalty, unlimited paid sick medical leave policy that is strictly enforced at all levels of management. Any lead who penalizes people for taking leave gets sacked. A unicorn of a company. Add in a child and short of finding another unicorn employer who won't penalize him for needing time off for me or our daughter, such as when daycare closed for a week due to an RSV outbreak, puts him out of the workforce until either I stop working or our child old enough to not need consistent monitoring. Last reason for this dynamic is that although I'm disabled, my job pays almost double the highest salary he's ever had. With no reduction in pay for needing time off. It doesn't make financial sense for us to switch who the working partner is. 2. Does my husband have a large following or make money from streaming TikTok? No. His lives have an average of 6 viewers. And his Twitch has 3 followers. When we did our taxes, he didn't get a 1099 and he showed me that he'd got all of $6 from TikTok live gifts. Nothing from Twitch. His viewer counts are about the same as at the end of last year. 3. Why do we still have a weekly housekeeper and have our daughter in summer camp and part-time daycare? I hate the dynamic of one spouse working a single job for 40 hours a week while the other juggles simultaneous domestic duties, child rearing, care, enrichment, socialization, and essentially being on call 24/7. I would not want those expectations of me and couldn't fathom putting all of it on someone I love and cherish. If my husband did all of the activities and field trips that daycare did, his evenings and weekends would be taken up by domestic duties that I would physically struggle with assisting. The weekly housekeeper helps prevent deferred cleaning paralysis, where small missed things pile up into unwieldy monster tasks and struggling with where to start. The monthly deep clean and organization has been a world of self-care as we navigated to having an infant and the transition from infant to toddler. Edited to add, our daughter started at the part-time daycare when she turned 3. Before then my partner was the primary caretaker, which made the weekly housekeeping that much more helpful in not letting things fall to disarray. 4. The allowance thing. Yes. I wanted a dynamic where my husband had his own money even if he was not working a paying job. Maybe I've been on social media too long, but I've read so many stories of non-working spouses, albeit mostly women, being financially abused or unable to leave marriages because they did not have access to money they could save up in private. Should I have stopped it sooner when our dynamic became too unbalanced? Yes. I own that. 5. As for what happens if when we divorce, the house and settlement balance is in a trust completely separated, and as far as my lawyer can tell, out of his reach. Alimony would be up for a judge to decide, but between my documentation, that his licenses or certs aren't expired, plus my continual medical costs, there's a good chance of not being obligated. Hopefully that answers most or all of the background-related questions. On to the update. Friday I finished work to the smell of food being cooked. My husband was plating dinner on the table when I left my office. He said he wanted to talk over dinner. Some people had given me a heads up that my story was on multiple TikToks, and I'm grateful because it meant being prepared for the possibility he would see it. I have feelings about my post being used for content on the very platform my child and I have been neglected for. Not good ones. He did see one. He asked if it was me and I told him the truth. Yes, I wrote it. Yes, that's how I feel. And yes, I read the comments on Reddit. And no, I won't delete or change how I write about him just because I know he can see it. I don't know how to describe his reaction, but he said he'd spent the last day reflecting on just how bad it could be, for so many medical diagnosis suggestions to be given as reason and justification. He did say that he's not ADHD. His mom was addicted to opioids and Ritalin when he was a kid, and she tried to get numerous doctors to have him diagnosed with ADHD. She had him believing he was, so he also sought out 2 opinions once he was an adult. He didn't learn about her addiction until his mid-20s. He did seek therapy once he was aware that his mom was trying to use him for pills. He said he was willing to see a psychiatrist one more time, but he doesn't think he's ADHD or autistic at all. He does think he might be depressed though. If not depressed, he will ask about some of the other medical suggestions if it will ease my worry or rule out a major problem. He did sound genuine in this, but something he said is sticking with me. He said it jokingly and apologized as soon as he saw the hurt in my eyes. That everyone saying there's something wrong in his brain must be onto something since he chose to love and marry someone medically fragile, knowing our life together would be anything but normal. He did also admit that the night he'd left the door open, the pot on, ruined our child's favorite dish, and a cup, he'd drunk a little too much on his stream, and would monitor that more closely. He said the last few nights, he had been filling his wine bottle with grape juice so it looked like he was a jolly drinking Viking, but was actually sober. He said he would keep doing that. After dinner we went out and he surprised me by seeing the new Deadpool movie. We didn't go to our normal theater because he looked up what each theater had for limited edition popcorn buckets. I now have the baby Deadpool one that holds popcorn and a drink. We spent the next day going over the extent of how our family dynamic changed for the worse. How the little things have added up. How I see change as a part of an apology. If you verbally apologize but repeatedly do the same thing, the apology words are worthless to me. And that he didn't recognize just how frequently he was making the same similar oopsies. Sunday. We spent time talking over short and long terms. What needs to change immediately? Him scheduling his own doctor appointments. Timelines for expectations. He agreed that replacing or fixing things he caused will no longer come out of our expense account. He will pay it from his allowance account. Which we talked about. I did turn deposits back on, but only for $50 per paycheck. He suggested we keep it that way until he's paid back the cost of repairing the garage and car from earlier this year. He said it will take him far longer to undo the cost of destroying the engine to my last vehicle, but that he's going to step up and find ways to make it right. Yes. I see the red flags. Love bombing. Not knowing how frequently despite repeated talks. Thinking verbal apologies are the final step in apologizing and not understanding that repeatedly doing the same problem thing is the same as never apologizing. And yes, I know he will read this. Do I actually think this is resolved, and we will come out of this as a perfect married couple who stays together until one of us croaks? Not really. Full offense to husband, for now. Is it a potential resolution? Maybe. But my husband is fully aware that he has a lot to make up for, a lot to fix, and a tight schedule to make it happen. And that the lesson for our daughter, later in life, is either going to be, taking real accountability can steer a wayward ship back to course. Taking accountability is the right thing to do, even if you don't get the results you wanted. Or, love alone isn't enough. TLDR. Wow, this sucks. I suck for letting it get this far. My husband sucks for what he's put us through. Life owes me a dinner date if it's gonna F me so hard. But there's a potential path forward that doesn't involve divorce. But may involve divorce. Edit to add. He finally read the post, so please read between the lines to what I'm actually saying. Last 4 words of the previous 4 paragraphs if it's not obvious. Relevant comments. Comment 1. There is some truth to his joke. Given his ability to work has been impacted due to your medical needs, neither of you seem very keen on being a partner, and given your take on alimony and money in general, I hope he looks out for his own financial interests. OP. I'm trying to be a partner. It's why I am supportive and pay for help, housekeeping, part-time daycare that is currently a full-time summer camp, as well as ensure he has his own money to spend how he wants. There is truth that my medical needs impact his ability to work, which would hurt him for alimony because he wouldn't need a unicorn job with unpenalized PTO if we aren't together. Would I still help him land semi-softly on his feet? Most likely. A judge, from what I've been told, would be less likely to obligate it. OP on needing to grow a spine and have her talks with her husband to improve things. OP. I wish I could grow a spine and replace the one being held together with duct tape, screws, rust, and vibes. I'm well aware that he's 99.9% likely in a panic, and the next month if that is going to be a refreshing, but temporary, change. Sorry people wrongly dogpiled you previously, but you are quite mistaken here for assuming I want to verify that my husband is indeed choosing to suck, is proof that I intend to continue living like this. Bunchful. Your 2 posts have a much larger following after a week that he does on all of his streaming junk combined. I have a very hard time believing he couldn't keep a job because of how toxic his work environment was. But that's just me. OP. Look, I wasn't gonna say it, but you're not wrong. The toxic work environments part is sadly very true. I've seen the evidence he collected and submitted to the labor board. At least before everything went sideways, things were really nice with him as a house husband. I'm sad he squandered it. I'll be financially able to retire in just a few years barring my career field suddenly tanking salaries though.